And we are live. Welcome to Paradigm Shift TV 314. This is your brother, Pianki Patal Muntu Nefra Amon Ra, aka DMG. And we back again with our brother Richie Garfield. Asking, is science compatible with Christianity? This is part 2. This time we got another powerful brother lined up to speak to our brother about this very topic. But before they get into their spiel, let me do my usual greeting. Let me say hotep to my fellow Kemetic brothers and sisters. Let me say God bless to my Christian brothers and sisters. Let me say Islam to my Moorish brothers and sisters. Let me say Assalamu alaikum to my brothers and sisters in the NOI. Let me say peace to my brothers and sisters in the nation of God, gods and earths, them 5%. Let me say shalom to my Israelite brothers and sisters. Let me send a shout out to all my atheist brothers and sisters. Peace to y'all. And let me say jumbo to everybody else throughout the African diaspora, be it here in the wilderness of the United States of America or beyond. Y'all know I say that greeting for one reason and one reason only. It's because if you Black, I'm with you. And I hope that you with me. Our different ideologies should not keep us from uniting. And we can disagree without being disrespectfully disagreeable. And we can have unity without uniformity. And with that, brothers, in no particular order, introduce yourself to the Paradigm Shift TV 314 audience.
Okay, peace. This is my first name, Dennis. That's my government name. I go on by the platform by Google Scholar. Always in your chat, you see me. I like to dialogue on issues of religion and politics, and also on science. I came on this evening because I want to have a conversation with the brother Richie Garfield. I overheard a conversation that he had with the brother Black Lion in regards to the compatibility of Christian religion with science, and I was very interested in that topic. So I reached out and I tried to have this dialogue. So that's what we want to get into tonight. In terms of background for me, I'm somebody who was a Christian for most of my life. I went to church. I started out as a Baptist, fell out of love with it. When looking, I went into the Seventh-day Adventist church, didn't find what I was looking for there. And through my search, one of the avenues that got me out of Christianity was just what I thought was the incompatibility of the Bible with modern science. So this topic is of particular interest to me. And a few of the top points of conversation that I heard the brother had with Brother Black Lion, I feel that some of the points, they both were making good points. I feel that they both did a good job. Brother Black Lion came at an angle. He wasn't like in trying to show the incompatibility with science. He was more showing the utility of or not lack of utility of the religion for people. And I agree with that point there. But tonight I want to come at from a different angle. I want to look at the specific disagreements between the Bible and science. So if the brother want to go ahead and say a few words, and we can go from there.
All right, brother Richie, it's on you.
Yep. Good evening, good night, brothers and sisters. Richie Garfield here. It's kind of my government name. Little background. I didn't become a Christian until my early 20s. I went to Catholic school, but was never grew up in a religious family, so I never really had any indoctrination of the Christian faith. It wasn't until I had a spiritual experience in my late teens, which eventually led me to Christianity. When it comes to this particular topic, it's not something I thought about until I started to encounter atheists in debate groups on Facebook. Usually, the mindset is that science is wrong, and they have evil spirits and they're influenced by the devil. But I took on the challenge to see if there's a way to look at what science is saying, look at what the Bible is saying, and the key for me was not to change the Bible and not to change science. And what I found was that a lot of the things that we say are incompatible with the Bible are scientific theories. They're not really observations. So my premise is that there are no observations that contradict the Genesis model of creation.
Okay.
All right.
right,
there you
so-
have it. So
Okay.
real quick. So that's where the brother's coming from. I'm gonna step aside, let these two brothers build, and let y'all see where the conversation goes. So Google Scholar, I'm gonna turn it over to you, bro.
Okay. All right. Thank you, bro Pianki. All right. So Brother Garfield, when you look at the order of creation in Genesis, do you feel that it matches up with what science teaches?
It matches up with what we observe so far. When it comes to saying a bang started the universe, obviously it doesn't match with that. When it comes to certain theories of planetary formation, there are some contradictions of that. But what I found was that even when it comes to things like planetary formation, a lot of the stuff are still theories and hypotheses. And there is still logic to the order of creation and to things that we could observe in the universe that we could match to the Genesis model.
Okay. So when you say theory or a scientific theory, are you thinking that is something that they don't have evidence for, and it's something that they're just hypothesizing about?
Well, you got hypothesis is the thought that you is based on logic, and the theory are basically observations that we do find, and you build your theory based on that. But it's still not fully factual because, for instance, like the Big Bang theory, they say the bang created the universe, but the observations that build up that theory are things like the cosmic microwave background, the baryonic acoustic oscillations, the expanding universe. So these are things that we observe, and then they take these observations and then they build their theories. And the thought is that, okay, how did we get to these points? So that's where the thought theories come in that don't contradict the biblical narrative.
Okay, I get the point you're making. So you're saying that even though the evidence do support the theory like the Big Bang theory, you're saying that there's no way you can be 100% sure that this is what happened.
I mean, when they try to prove the Big Bang created the universe, with the particle accelerator at CERN, one thing about particle accelerators, they tell us about the particle universe, the particles that make up reality. What they also try to do was they try to recreate the Big Bang by colliding these protons at such high speeds near the speed of light. But they've been doing for the past years, I could say over 10 to 20 years, they haven't found nothing. Nothing was created because, not even, say microseconds after that collision, you have this issue what they call asymmetry, where you have matter and antimatter annihilate each other, and they can't figure that out why that happens. So what they do is they gotta kind of go in there and manipulate the measurements by taking out antimatter to see what happens after that. And then what happens after that, they try to match what they see in these particle accelerators to the observations, what we see in the universe. And there's still another thing they have to make up, which is called cosmic inflation. Because when they try to match what they see in the particle accelerators to the CMB, they're saying that the growth of the CMB, what they see, you will have to have a expansion rate that's faster than the speed of light to match their measurements. So these are issues that the Big Bang theory have that people are not aware of. And it's because of that, they cannot say a bang created the universe. But
Okay,
everything after
okay,
that is everything after that is observable, like the CMB, the expanding universe. These are things that we could observe and measure.
Yeah, so what I was saying, given your approach, don't you feel like you're ignoring your highlighting all the misses and ignoring all the hits. And what I mean by that is, like you mentioned, the cosmic microwave background, the inflation, the recession velocities of the galaxies in the early universe, all those things confirm the Big Bang. So and if the Big Bang is not true, then there is no other competing hypothesis. I mean, so basically, if you look at the issues that you mentioned in terms of at the quantum level, yes, there are issues. There are some people still working on it, but the other evidences that confirm the Big Bang, are you not dismissing those because you have a particular worldview that doesn't compute?
I mean, all the evidence that comes from that theory, which is like, the cosmic microwave background, the baryonic acoustic oscillations, the primordial plasma that existed before the CMB. When I look at those things, all those things kind of, in a sense, match the Genesis narrative, where, like he says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, but the earth was unformed and void, and it was unseen. And what science say is that the early universe was opaque, meaning that you couldn't, because a photon couldn't travel, past a certain, they couldn't get escape. The early universe was opaque, or couldn't be clearly seen. So all these conditions are matching the biblical narrative. And then, like I mentioned in my last conversation, we measure these baryonic acoustic oscillations that preceded the CMB, which is the creation of light. So in a sense, the baryonic acoustic oscillations are like cosmic sound waves. When you have something really massive that could, rattle the fabric of space.
Mm-hmm.
So I just find it, is it just a coincidence that, you have this book that's, 2,000-3,000 years old, and they're talking about, God spoke and there was light. I just think that's highly, ironic, and it's, too much to be a coincidence, where basically in that time period you have a culture where everybody was explaining the natural world by gods, saying that a god carried the sun across the sky. And that wasn't just one culture, it was multiple cultures. There's a god of this water, there's a god of the thunder. But with the Israelites, their god was an unseen god that could never be represented by any like idol image. And it was kind of set apart. It was kind of groundbreaking in that time period for them to come up with such a concept.
Okay, I get the point you're making. I still feel like it's confirmation bias in a sense, because you basically, like I'm saying, you highlight the hits and you ignore the misses. But what I want to get to, I noticed you said that in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So in that scenario, in that context, what would you describe as the heavens?
So what we see, like, when you look at the whole Bible as a whole, like we have Paul talking in Acts, or was it Acts, or no, it was one of his letters. I think it was in Romans, where he was taken up to the third heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, okay, what's this third heaven? And in the third heaven, it's supposed to be the place where God resides, or paradise. So that will make you question. So if there's a third heaven, where's the first and the second? So when you go to Genesis, we see that the birds fly in the heavens, and we also see that the stars, the moon, and the sun were also placed in the heavens. And when you look at our reality, we have like kind of like when it comes to expanses, we have our atmosphere, which is an expanse, and then we have the space, which is also an expanse. So we the model is that space is expanding. So what is this space is expanding into? So there has to be something outside of space, our observable universe, that's expanded into, because there's no such thing as nothing. There's no, the concept of nothing, other than zero. Like, we cannot say something comes from nothing, because that doesn't make no logical sense. And this is why people come up with things like the multiverse, because as I mentioned in my previous discussion, in the 20s and the early 20s, all the scientific consensus was that the universe was infinite and static, meaning that it never was created, and it always was. And it wasn't until we found an expanded universe that we, discovered that this universe that we live in had a beginning. So if you was living in the 20s and you read the Bible, you'd be like, well, the universe is infinite. So this is saying that in the beginning, God created this universe. But now we have scientific observations that proves that this universe had a beginning. So now the Bible comes back into the picture.
Yeah,
So,
I get the point you're making, but I was speaking specifically. So basically, what I got from what you're saying is that the heavens is basically everything outside the atmosphere of the earth.
so like as you got three heavens, so you have the atmosphere, the sky, where basically when it says in Genesis, the birds shall fly in the heaven. And
Okay.
then when God formed the sun, it said he placed them in the heavens. But you're not gonna get two heavens from the Genesis narrative. It's when you hear Paul speak about, he was taken to the third heaven. So the understanding in the first century Jews is that there were three expanses, even though they never observed these things. But you have the expanse where the stars and the moon and everything else it resides in, and you also have our heaven, which is the atmosphere, which is
Okay.
where the birds fly and stuff like that. So when to answer your question, when God created the heavens and the earth, that means that He created space time. He created everything that space consists of, which is space, matter, and time.
Okay, but the reason why I asked you that question because if it says the heavens and the earth, by language, that's a clear distinction between the heavens and the earth.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to figure out from you is your interpretation of what the heavens is, because there are a lot of people that says the heavens is everything outside this solar system. A lot of people say the heavens is everything outside of the earth, and a lot of people take it to heavens as just as
Mm-hmm.
where God resides. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to get your particular view of which one of those you think it is
Mm-hmm.
in this particular context, not just in the context of the whole Bible, but this in this particular context.
Yeah, like in Genesis 1:20 it says, God said, "Let the waters bring forth reptiles having life and winged creatures flying above the earth in the firmament of the heaven." So it's saying that birds are flying in heaven, the firmament of heaven. So the heaven that the birds fly in, of course, like if you look back in that time period, of course they could see birds flying in the sky, but they're calling that heaven. And
Okay.
then you could go back into it says, let verse 14, let there be lights in the firmament of let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, to divide between the day and night. And then God made two great lights, which is talking about the sun and the moon, and He placed them in the heaven. So there you have the sun and the moon placed in the heaven. So is that the same heaven where the birds fly? But we know that in the Hebrew cosmology that there was a separation between what they call the firmament that separated the waters below and the waters above. Because in the ancient times, people believed that there were the space itself. There was like the stars and everything was in a substance like a water-like substance. So this is why they called the first, second, and third heavens. That concept came from, which is why Paul said he was taken to the third heaven, which was like paradise. So if
Okay.
you look at our reality, we have our atmosphere, we have space, and then what's beyond space, which is by observation. Without no Bible, without anything other than that, we don't know what's outside of the expanding universe. But logic tells you that there has to be something because you can't expand something into nothing, logically speaking.
Yeah, I get your point. The reason why I was asking you this line of questioning is
Mhm.
because this is my first issue in terms of science and the Bible. The Bible
Mhm.
says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, which suggests that the heaven and the earth were created at the same time.
Mhm.
And then, if you look at what we know from science, the universe or the heavens would have been here, um, close to almost 7-8 billion years before there ever was an earth.
Mhm.
So in order for the Bible to be correct in that statement, it would have to be in the beginning God created the heavens, and then a little while further on, he created the earth, because that wouldn't make sense in the context of what we know from science now.
I mean, like when it comes to, he said he created the earth, you're saying, like the earth is at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, when you look at the language too, it says the earth was unfurnished and it was unfinished. It was void. It was dark. It was not put together. So it's kind of like saying, like, if you have like a bag of Legos, and we as the creator know the end result of the Lego, but if you're looking at, you pour the bag of Legos, all you see is the pieces. So, in the creator's mind, he's like, he knows the purpose of creating the universe is to get to the earth. So scientifically speaking, can we prove the earth to be at the beginning of creation? In which I brought up, these things called primordial nuclei, which are nuclei that was formed at the beginning of the universe, which people, scientists who believe in the Big Bang, it says, nuclei that was formed at the beginning of the Big Bang. So you say, okay, do you have evidence of the earth being at the beginning? And I would say, well, we got primordial nuclei here. Now, am I saying, science will say, well, these primordial nuclei could have came from everything. They could have came from a comet. They could have came from whatever. But like I said, that's the point where science is saying now, this is what could have been, but where's your observation to show me that that's where it came from? So what I'm saying is this, that the logic of the earth being at the beginning in an unformed state, we have like evidence of nuclei that existed in the beginning on earth right now.
Oh, okay. I hear your point. I feel like that's a stretch, but I see the point you're trying to make. I never asked you before you started. Are you somebody that's a biblical literist, or if you're a literalist, or are you somebody that subscribe to more of the allegorical view of the Bible?
Yeah, I'm a literalist. I'm only subscribed to allegories if the Bible says it's an allegory. Like, for instance, when they mention, like, take this parable to the king of Tyre. And, a lot of people take that to be, talking about Lucifer. But, that's like, it was just a parable. But if like you say Genesis, if this says this is the parable of creation, then I wouldn't take this literal. But there's no indication in the text that the author is making this a parable. It's like he's given it, in a sense, a scientific process. Like, he's given an order of how things came into being. So I take it literal.
Okay. Yeah. That when I ask you this question, there's a reason for it, because if you take it literally, what it is saying is that the heaven and the earth were created at the same time. And I understand the answer that you gave in terms of the primordial nuclei, but that doesn't wash, because this is what we know, right? We know that atoms are created in the center of stars on an ongoing basis. So there are atoms out there that were created at a certain point that were not there in the beginning. Also, we scientists have actually gone in and shown that there are atoms in the crust of the earth, in the earth right now, that were created in the middle of stars that were not our sun. So basically what they're saying is that there's stars that were born, that created atoms that blew up and form other systems and form our system. And some of those atoms are right here with us on Earth right now. So if what you're saying is true, then that means that all that is false. And basically, we know that exactly what a star is. It's a nuclear powerhouse that produces atoms, and those atoms are then, after the star dies, they are distributed throughout the universe to form other stars and planets, and eventually beings like us. So if given a literal view of Genesis, that would be anti-science, because science says no, the universe was here billions of years before the earth, and Genesis is saying they came at the same time. So that's a bit of a stretch.
But when it says the earth was formless and void, like, do you think it's logically possible that the formless earth, meaning that it wasn't formed yet. So you could picture Earth that's, not in the shape it's in. It's just, like it says, it was void and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and God was moving over the surface of the waters. So what I see here is like, formless creation. It's like basically he's creating the pieces of what he's gonna create form down the line. And like, do you think it's illogical to think that, the Earth itself that we have now, that parts of the earth didn't exist at the beginning of creation, which is basically what I come to the conclusion of the primordial nuclei. Like, we do have evidence of pieces from the beginning here on us with Earth. And when you look at the Genesis model, it's like, okay, then after, day one, you start to see Earth forming into what we have today. Like, day two has a water Earth, and then day three we have, the Earth coming up out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that's like impossible? Like, or based on what we see in the universe, like we do see that there are planets out there called rogue planets that have no star. So we know that planets don't need a star to exist.
Yeah,
Like for
I
instance,
get what
yeah.
you're saying.
Mhm.
If you look at it in a vacuum, in isolation, it wouldn't
Mhm.
be logical. But given the context of the chapter of Genesis 1, because if you're saying that when it says the earth was without form and void, it was talking about the atoms or the nucleuses or whatever had to be there at the beginning, because it says in the beginning. And if
Mhm.
you're talking about the earth being made of stuff that was created after the creation of the heavens, then that would be true for us, because even the atoms that made us up wasn't there in the beginning. So in context of the verse, it it wouldn't be logical in my view. But I don't want to belabor the point too much. There are other points that I need to get to. But if you want to say something final on this, then we
Yeah.
can
So
move on.
yeah. So like when you say, like when it says that God created heaven and the earth, when you read that verse in your mind, you see like a completed earth.
Well, it not necessarily a completed earth, but the earth in some form. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, what that is saying, that whatever the earth is made of was there at that time. But
Yeah.
according to what science is saying, most of the materials in the earth, or probably all of it, wasn't there in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
that's my point.
So it's possible that you said it was earth was there in some form, but it says that the earth was formless. So
Yeah,
is it possible that
formless,
this? Yeah, go on.
formless in terms of the it's there's not a particular form or shape, but the
Mm-hmm.
materials that made it would have to be there, as that would be an incorrect statement to say it was there in the beginning. You get my point? So it can't be there if the materials is not yet made. That
What about
if
like
that's it,
the like primordial nuclei? We know that the nuclei are the smallest substance of atoms. The nucleus of atoms. So like, and
yeah, but
of course, the person who's writing Genesis is not talking about nuclei. He's not talking about atoms. In a sense, when you look at Genesis, we're basically is it's written in the sense that a person is seeing God create the universe. That's how the narrative is presenting itself. It's of course we know that man wrote this, right? Isn't that the Bible does not say God wrote Genesis 1. So a man is writing this. So for those who accept it as true, the logic is that the man who wrote this, which we conclude is Moses, because it's more logical him, being on a mountain 40 days with God, that if Moses is writing what he's seeing God do, right? So of course he's not going to write about atoms and nuclei. He's saying in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, but the earth was formless and void. It was just empty. There was no form. And like in the Hebrew words for that is like in a sense chaotic. He's describing a chaotic state of the earth, which is why most people have this thing called a gap theory, where they believe that there's a big gap of time between Genesis 1 and 2, because they're saying, why would God create something chaotic? But we know that as when we create things, like for instance, if you're building a car, the car is going to look, they're not going to look like a car when you're putting it together. It's going to look chaotic, or or even the process of combustion. Combustion is a chaotic process, but the end result is something useful. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I see what you're saying, but the logic of it is this: if you're saying that when it says in the beginning God created the earth,
Mhm.
is that the earth was there in form of the primordial nuclei, we would have to say in the beginning he created us human beings as well, because we would have been there in that form as
Mhm.
well. Because you get my point. So it wouldn't be a logical statement unless you would say everything was created in the beginning. And reading that, that's not what the text is trying to convey. Because if you read the entire chapter, it is basically giving you an order of creation. And the order does not match with what modern science say. It doesn't match, not just in this sense, but even in other senses too. But for some parts of it, I get that you can twist it and try to make it fit, or I would maybe not twist is the wrong word, but I guess you could view it a certain way in terms of, like, in terms of the light, right? When it says let there be light and
Mhm.
the earth was already here. I get there's a way you can twist that, but in this sense, I don't see how you can say the earth was here in the beginning in the form of the nuclei, but we weren't. Because if that's the case, we were. And if we were, then that sentence would not make sense, and it would be incompatible with science.
But, like, why would we have to be here in the beginning with the, what you call, the little particles of that would create everything? Like, we look at, like, with what science says, that everything that we see today, all the atoms form from processes like the thermonuclear process of the sun and everything like that. We see these
Yes.
things happening. So, like, we get the periodic table from smaller atoms. What I'm saying, from hydrogen, everything builds up into other
Yeah.
atoms and stuff like that. So, like, when the Bible says that in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, I get where it's easy to see that, okay, you in your mind you're picturing the earth is already there. There's no stars, there's nothing. But, like, in this chaotic state that the Hebrew words convey, it's like that chaotic state matches observation, because we basically know that all matter existed as a plasma before the CMB, where photons cannot travel through the plasma because they was constantly interacting with the charged electrons and the baryons. And the funny thing about it, not the funny thing, but the thing about this, because of this state, the universe was opaque, right? And the beginning is talking about a darkness, like, when the person is seeing God creating this, he's still saying this is in darkness. you know this is like something that I can't see. So, like, those conditions logically matches the conditions of the universe before there was light. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, in a sense, I'm not trying to twist it to say, okay, this is what Moses was saying. He was saying these are atoms, right? I'm looking at the logical implications of what is saying there, and what we observe in science, to see if the logic matches each other. You understand what I'm saying?
I get the point you're saying. I don't think we're gonna agree on this. I
Mhm.
But I guess we can move on to something else,
Yeah,
because
yeah. Mhm.
science is not just in terms of the Big Bang and the early universe. There are other aspects of science which I believe is incompatible with the Bible, and
Yeah.
thus with Christian religion. The next point I probably want to move to is the Tower of Babel.
Mhm.
You're aware of that story, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That at one point in there, it says that the whole earth, the entire earth, that means every person on earth spoke the same language.
Mhm.
Um, well, basically, according to science, there was never a time that every person on Earth, in terms of human beings, spoke the same language, and that's incompatible with what with the science of linguistics. Do you have a thought on that?
Well, to be honest with you, I really never heard that criticism of language. From what I did study about language, is that there is a mystery to early languages and how we've got the language we got today. But but when we study from the early language that we studied from there on out, we have an understanding. But I do remember they were saying there's a mystery to, and I seen a documentary about this too, about Babel. But like for this conversation, I won't be able to add much because I haven't done my research in that area yet. So
Okay.
I can't really, give a comment on that until like I do my research. Maybe like I could hit you up on an email or another conversation in the future.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's that.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I mean, that's that. I think that's the correct way to go with it. If you're not familiar with the topic, if you don't have an answer for the subject, um, take it under advisement and do some more research on it. That's the
Yeah.
responsible thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we can move forward then. How about the flood of Noah? Now,
Okay.
as a Christian, when I was a Christian, at first I was fundamentalist, so I used to believe that the flood of Noah was an actual event that happened. It was a global flood. But as I became a more thinking Christian, I started to, to try to harmonize it with science. But the more you look at it, you realize that it's just not compatible with science. The flood, as it's described in the Bible, is basically, it's not possible that it happened. Like when I look at the natural sciences, like every branch of science basically disagrees that the flood of Noah could have happened. So what are your thoughts on that?
So the flood of Noah, I will admit, is so when it comes to like the cosmological argument, I'm more confident in that. Showing the compatibility of what we know in the cosmos compared with how in the order of creation. But when it comes to the flood of Noah, like I would admit that it's possible, but then you have to apply scientific principles. So there's two views on the flood of Noah. You have the local flood model, which basically says it wasn't a worldwide flood, but it was a regional flood in the Mediterranean area. And like, we have evidence of there was like a big flood in that area, in the times past. But if you're going to take the Bible literal now, you have to say, okay, well, every human being had to have died in that flood. Now, is a worldwide now based on what we know about the mechanics of the earth, and my studies of this have even got me to new observations that we just found. So based on the mechanism of the earth, right, with tectonic plates, with and what we recently found was that we have as much water under the crust of earth as there is on the surface. So when you read the biblical narrative, it says that, what really caused a flood, most people think, like when you look at the Sunday school stories, that the rain caused all this water to come up. Where from the Bible, though, what it says that the fountains of the deep broke open.
Yeah,
So I'm thinking about, okay, like, wow, it's saying that water's coming from underground. But, before we found this water under the earth, that would have been like, fictional. But now we have evidence that there is abundant water source under the crust. That makes a logical implication in the biblical narrative now that yes, water could come from the crust now. Now, when it comes to like, there's a model now whether, we have one landmass, right? And the implication is that this flood is what broke the landmass into the continents we see today. And we do know, like, based on tectonic plates, that's a possibility that, the plates will move these continents. But the issue with that is that with such rapid tectonic plate movement, you're going to have a lot of heat to disperse. So that's the one thing I haven't really, come across. So how do you solve the heat problem that will come from this tectonic plate activity? But the scientific model is that, okay, over time it was a law of superposition. Like, life came, then time come over, then they was buried under a layer, then layer after layer, then layer after layer, and this is how we basically date life on Earth based on the layers, not based on the organism itself. So the flood model would say that all these animals that we see in the in these layers died during this global flood. So is that a possibility? Now, in 1980, there was this eruption called Mount St. Helens, where it was a volcanic eruption, and layers were laid rapidly, and you could go see those layers today. But we know by observation this didn't take thousands and billions of years. It happened instantly. And when you date these layers that was laid, in the 80s, they date like older, and like billions of years old. That's because it's taking old rock and laying on top of one another. So when it comes to like the biblical model now, where we see life being buried rapidly, if you have a worldwide flood mechanism, that's a possibility. It's not like illogical. um but like I said, the only issue I found with the flood model with the water under the crust is the heat dispersion. So but that doesn't basically throw me off, because what I found out things like there's water under the crust. And then even when it comes to the Genesis model, when it says like the sun was formed, and then not created, it was a different Hebrew word that you used, that the sun was formed on the fourth day after the earth supposedly had vegetation and land, right? So, and I spoke to the other brother before. I was like, well, if you take one of the most abundant features on Earth, which is water, and you date that, Earth's water dates older than the sun. But like I said, you have scientific theories that try to explain where this water came from. Is it logical? Yes, it's logical, but like I said, it's not observed, because with the discovery that we found with water under the crust, it's baffling scientists now. Like, okay, how does this water get there now, based on our our comet asteroid model, like of water coming in here by a bombardment of asteroids and what, or comets, whatever, bombarding the Earth, and this is how all this water came here. So how do you explain now, the water under the crust now? So that's what I
Okay.
mean by there's no observation that contradicts, the biblical models when it comes to that.
Okay. Well, you said a lot there,
Mhm.
and some of it, I got to tell you, some of it is not accurate. Now, in terms of a global flood that would come about from water under the crust, do you have any idea of just the amount of water that's under the crust of the earth in regards to in relation to what's on top of the crust?
I mean, from what I read, it was like they said there's much water under the earth as it on the surface, but there could be more. So it's still like um more to figure out when it comes to that.
Okay, all right. I don't have the figures with me right now, but I've looked into that before, and from what
Mhm.
the scientists are saying,
Mhm.
that the amount of water that's under the crust combined with what's on top of the crust,
Mhm.
it wouldn't be enough to cover the entire planet, so that there are no land masses left. So that's the first thing.
Mhm.
Now, the second thing, if there was a flood, that means that you believe that all the animals that are on the planet were living at the same time, all the different types of animals. So you basically would not accept the geologic column, and you wouldn't accept fossils. Am I reading that right?
Um, like based on like, because there are things that we've seen in nature. Like we found this thing called the London hammer that was buried under rocks that was millions of years old. So, but we know that this hammer was made recently in our the age of mankind. So basically the flood model I'm proposing is that there's a global flood that basically is taking the layers that existed from an old Earth, and is basically supposing these layers over all these creatures and stuff. But and then when it comes to like the geological column, that's how we base the theory of evolution on. This is how they're saying that this is what creatures came after the other, and based on the geological column, this is why people say that birds are the dinosaurs.
Okay, but if you're doing that from a logical perspective,
Mhm.
wouldn't you expect to see it more chaotic? For example, if you check the geologic column,
Mhm.
anywhere you go across the planet and you look at a certain column, there's only one type of fossil in that column, anywhere on the planet. If the flood, as you say, was the cause for that, then you would expect there to be more mixing. That means if you go to one part of the earth, you would see this column on the top, and you go back to this part, you see this column on the bottom. But you never see that. It's always uniform. The column is always the same wherever you go. Same with the fossils. If there was a flood that was responsible for depositing the fossils, someplace you would go, you would see modern fossils in the bottom layer and older fossils in the top layer, and vice versa in another part. But you never see that. It's always uniform. So wouldn't you say that that explanation is far more reasonable and logical than the idea you're putting forward?
Yeah, it's logical, but from what I understand about the geological column that we see in the textbooks, that doesn't
Mhm.
exist. Basically, that geological column is taken from different areas of the world, and they based it on time. So if they found this strata over here, and they said this is a million years old, right? They go another part of the world, and they find another a strata, and they say this is 100,000 years old. And this is how they lay the layers, but you will never ever see that completed column in nature. You will never see it anywhere.
Okay. That sounds like it coming from a creationist website or something, because I've not personally seen it, but I've seen
Mhm.
pictures of it. And one thing you cannot get around is that wherever in the world you go, it's uniform. You would not always see the same columns, but
Yeah.
what you would see is wherever you see the columns, they're always in the same order. That means if it goes like this: red, green, yellow, black, you might go to another part and the black is not there, but it's always red, green, yellow. You go to another part, the red is not there, but it's green, yellow, black. You get my point? It's
Mm.
always uniform wherever you go across the world. So that is telling you, I mean, the people that are doing this are not dumb people.
Mm.
They honest, and a lot of these people are Christians. Not that they are all non-believers. Most of these people are Christians or believers in some form of religion. So it's not like they're purposely going out to try to disprove the Bible, but the facts are the facts. Wherever you go in the earth, well, not every place, but wherever you see the column, it's always in the same order. That tells me that it is being laid down over time on top of each other.
Mm.
That's the only explanation. Because
So
if
do
not, then okay, go ahead.
no, so do you think it's impossible to lay columns in a rapid in a short period of time?
I don't think it's impossible, but then the columns is not the only issue. It's that the fossils in the columns, right?
Mm.
You never see certain fossils in certain columns, and that would tell you that those are the type of animals that were living when that column was laid down, right? For example, you will never see the fossil of a rabbit or a human in a column in one of the bottom columns.
Mm.
Never. If it was laid down by a flood, then the fossil would be all mixed in. You would find them different fossils in different columns, but it's always uniform. So again, that shows you that it's a systematic layering of the columns over time.
So we do find, like, when you look at the column, we find, like, sea creatures, you would say, like, near at the very bottom. and then you will have like I guess the more massive creatures like the dinosaurs, like somewhere in the middle, and then you will have like the smaller creatures like near the top, like especially like birds and stuff. So
No, that's not how. No, that's not how it works. What happened is that at the very lowest columns, you would find microscopic microscopic organism,
oh,
and then
microscopic. Okay,
above
we're talking about microscopic organism. Okay, so we're
and
talking
then
about like
above that
creatures.
you'll find like the simple life forms, what they call the Precambrian fossils,
Yeah,
and then
Precambrian.
and then you notice that the organism, they get more complex the closer to the top column you get. So that again is another thing, is that the order is matching, everything is matching with how science explains it. It's not matching with the idea of a rapid laid down by a flood. So
So you're talking about, okay, so you mentioned complexity of the creatures as they go up the column. So meaning
mhm.
that, okay, you start at the bottom, you got the microscopic organisms, which we're made up of, and then it goes up and up. You got the Precambrian, then you got the dinosaurs, right? And then
But
above the
even before
dinosaurs,
you get to the dinosaurs, you have other stuff like you have marine animals, like fishes,
yeah,
like
fish, yeah,
reptile.
yeah, okay. And so if you go by, so you're saying like there's a complexity building up, right?
Yes,
So
complexity. Yeah.
would you consider a dinosaur more complex than a chicken?
Well, no, because a chicken is a dinosaur.
Yeah.
So
But I mean,
no.
in the complexity of like its makeup, would you
Yeah, but
consider like
when I talk about complexity, I'm not talking because if we're talking about a dinosaur, that's a relatively modern animal. I know it's been millions of years since they were on the planet, but
Mhm.
that's relatively modern. You got to understand that there was life on this planet about 3.5 billion years from today. So all that time, life has been proliferate, proliferating on the planet.
Mhm.
It goes from microscopic organism to more and more complex. Now, not saying after a certain point, the complexity factor doesn't become an issue, but when I say less complex, I'm talking about like if you look at the pre-Cambrian forms of fossils,
Mhm.
they're still very complex, but you can see they're not as complex as what are in the top layers.
So these Precambrian fossils, where did they exist? Did they exist under the water, or did they exist on land?
No, no, they're in the column. They're in the
But I
you
mean,
have what they
when they were living, what was their habitat?
it more than likely was in the water. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it was probably in the water.
So I'm gonna give you like a scenario then. Like, okay, we know even microscopic organisms exist today, and they exist usually in the earth, right? Like you dig up the soil and stuff like that, you will find much more microscopic organisms. So say like there was like a Mount St. Helen event that happened in my area, and it buries me and everything. Wouldn't that microscopic organism still be under me because it's under me right now when I get
I
buried?
mean, what do you mean under you?
Like right now, like we're on top of land, and microscopic organisms exist in abundance in the soil because they're made up of plants and all these other things in there. Even when you go under the water, you find a lot more microscopic life in deep in caves, deep in rocks. Um, so if I was to get buried in a landslide event, and then let's say 1,000 years pass from now, wouldn't I be above in the column above the microscopic organism that exists with me today?
No,
Like for
no.
instance,
I think you.
ants and stuff, right? If I was to get buried by a landslide, wouldn't the ant still exist under me from that
No, I
landslide?
think no. I think you misunderstanding it. When we say the column, it's not that it's like a landslide and then that's it. You can have thousands or even hundreds of landslides or events in one column. The column
Yeah.
is differentiated by the type of rock that was on the surface at the time. So it's not really that, if like it's impossible for you to be on here and you get buried in a landslide with an ant and you're not in the same column, because you're going to be in the same column, even if you're on top, you're still in the same column. You get my point?
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest strength for your argument would be the fact that these columns date from older to younger. I think that's the biggest strength to why that theory of superposition over time, is what caused all these fossils. But let me give you a scenario now. So, okay, let's look at the possibility of each scenario then, if it's possible. Is it possible that over billions of years that animals exist of one form, time passes, they get buried under their strata, from whatever landslides, floods, volcanoes, volcanic activity, and it's happened over billions of years. Is that possible? I would say, yeah, it is possible. Is it possible for me to exist with creatures and there's a worldwide, or let's say a local event, because I'm not even talking worldwide. My local neighborhood. There's creatures that exist with me now under the earth right now. There's creatures that exist with me, on the earth, and there's creatures that exist above. If like a Mount St. Helens event was to happen here, and I get buried, right? The creatures under me are gonna be under me. The creatures in the water are still gonna be in the water, but they're gonna be buried by this localized event. Volcanic event, and we probably should expect like birds to be in the top column, which we basically do.
No. I think you got that all wrong. I think you messed that up. This is what happened: is that at the time when the creatures are buried in the soil, it is not rock at that time. It is soil. It is different types of soil. But what happened is that over time, over millennia, over millions of years, that rock is compacted, the soil is compacted, all the moisture is taken out. And so slowly over time, it becomes rock. And so that's basically what a fossil is. A fossil is, it's like the body of the creature is basically all the moisture is taken out. And over time, the rock filling that area. And so basically you wouldn't, when you say you'll be on top of creature and birds would be on top of you, that's not how it works. Everything that's living on earth now, if we were to all die and after millions of years of this layer being compacted, all of us, all the living animals and plants would be in the same layer after a certain amount of time. So it's not a matter of you being on top of another creature. You'll all be in the same column. Now, if the column below you would have like other prehistoric animals that were here before human beings came on the planet. So it goes like that. It's not that you would not be in a different layer to any creature that is living on the planet now, because we're all on the surface now. And when we die, and you have to understand that fossilization, when it takes place, it's usually a quick process. And then because of the over time, when the soil and the earth compresses, and the pressure and the moisture is taken out, the rock fill in the body of the animal. So that's what fossilization is. So whatever creatures living on the face of the earth now, let's say there was a catastrophic event and everything on the earth died right now. And then after billions of years, another culture is comes on the earth and is doing the excavations. They would see everything that's on the planet now in one layer.
So you're saying that it's impossible for multiple layers to be laid rapidly then?
I'm not saying it is impossible, but
Mm.
based on how
So
the science.
what if in that scenario, the possible scenario of multiple layers being laid rapidly at one time, and is it possible that life could get buried in different layers based on, so like, if I'm trying to run uphill and I get caught in a higher layer than the little rabbit underneath me or something? Is that
No,
possible?
I don't think you understand. Let's say this, okay?
Mm,
The first animals on land came out the water, right?
yeah.
These were semi-aquatic. Were more like, not like amphibians today, but they would have been like kind of amphibians, right?
Mm,
And over time, they evolve into what we now know as reptiles. Now, for millions and millions of years, there were only those kind of animals on the planet. Now, if you look in those layers that was on the surface at the time, you will only see reptiles and amphibians. You'll never see a mammal. You'll never see a dinosaur because those weren't around yet. Now, as you come up to the other layers, now you get to a layer where you start to see dinosaurs. You start to see other type of animal like the plesiosaurs, and those other kind of animals.
mm.
Now, in those layers, you still don't have mammals yet. Now you go above that, you have early form of mammals, but you don't have the modern looking mammals as yet. So that's my point. If this was done by a flood, you wouldn't see the uniformity all over the planet. It would be like that in some places, but in
Mm.
some other places it would be different. But it's never different. It's always the same everywhere in the world you go.
And you're claiming that the geological column, the complete column that we see in the textbooks, are you claiming that that exists in one location in its entirety, or is the geological column broken up all over the world in different places?
No, it's at different places all over the world in terms of where it's located, where you can see it.
Yeah. So we're not going to
Especially
basically see like the whole column in one spot. You're going to basically
no,
see pieces of the column in different parts of the world, you're saying, right?
no. You can. There are some places in the world where you can see the entire column. Like
Really?
I think there's one spot in Canada, and there's another one in Australia where you can see the entire column. But there are other places where you can see most of it. Like some places you can see most of the top layer, another place you can see most of the bottom layer. But there are places where you can see the entire column.
Complete geological column found. I'll have to research that because what I even that from creationist sites, I read that these columns were there's the whole complete column you see in the textbook is not found anywhere in the world. Where
Yeah, I
we can
understand.
find every rock layer in the world,
I,
like
under,
yeah.
I understand
But
your
you said
Christian.
but you're saying that there are places in the world that we find the complete rock layer.
Yes, the entire geologic column. There are places
Do
you can.
do you know the place offhand so I could kind of like maybe find it?
No, I don't know offhand. Like I said, I think there's one place in Canada and another in Australia. Those are the two that come to mind. But I'm not. I can't tell you off the top of my head where exactly. But I think I should give you a bit of advice when you come on to looking at yeah. Let me get to it.
Mhm.
In creationist website, I used to be a Christian, like I told you, and I used to go to these creationist website like Answers in Genesis and
Mhm.
the Institute for Creation Research, and I'm just gonna come right out and say these people are not honest. So whatever you see there, you can look at it, but you should also verify it somewhere else because these are not honest people. So that's my advice to you on that point.
Mm. So, but you can't give me that right now, like exactly like a link to an article that has the complete column in Nature.
Listen, no, I don't have it right now, but it's something I can get to you. I can send it to Brother Pianki and give it to you.
Okay. I think we know that's something we will, in regards to this conversation, that's something we probably could come back to in a future conversation then. Because like I said, at the end of the day, like remember we were talking about, what I said in the beginning, that there's no observation that contradicts the Bible. So this is why I want to see the observation of the complete geological column they show in textbooks found one place in the earth.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Mhm.
If you were to find the entire geologic column in one place, would that make you question it at all, or would that change anything for you?
I would like to see, what's the explanation behind that column. Because like from what I know by nature, from my observation in nature, right? I know
Mhm.
that nature could lay down multiple columns in a quick, rapid fashion. And I know that when we go date these columns that were just laid recently, these columns date to like, billions of years, thousands of years, and stuff like that. So what I'm saying is that the Earth has a mechanism for a global flood event. And we're not just talking about like a volcano. We're talking about like the claim is that floods from from the fountains of the deep broken open and breaking up the continents to what we see today. So that's a big, big global event. It's not just like a little volcano. So something that huge, um, in logical sense, I could see something that huge laying down and killing all the life on Earth and laying down layers all over the Earth. But to the point of finding that complete column in the textbook, like I said, if to say that, I'll have to see it. I will have to see it. Because there are things that I have seen that supposedly contradicted the Bible, but God was able to come through and give show up, guide me through an explanation.
Okay, so basically, you wouldn't be able to. I'm not even gonna go there. Basically, it's something you can find out. I'm gonna do some search for some actual scientific papers on the topic, and I'll
Yeah,
forward it to Brother Bianchi and let you get it. But I think we can move on from that point because
yeah, yeah.
you say that everything in the Bible matches observation,
No,
and
they said there's no observation that contradicts the Bible.
okay,
Yeah.
so I based on what you're saying, I assume you're not a young Earth creationist, right?
No, because based on like when you look at what a day is, right? And I always tell people like if the Bible was a flat Earth book, how can you get a day without the sun? And then when you look at what causes an Earth day, the Earth day is not caused by the sun; it's caused by the rotation of the Earth with the sun as a reference. So, like for instance, a day on Venus is like 200. It will be a one day on Venus will be like 200 something Earth days, right? So what that shows is that the mechanism for that, when you look in the Hebrew Bible, when it says there was an evening, there was a morning, those two Hebrew words together means like a cycle. So it's like I see that I would need a round Earth to make Genesis practical. I can't have a flat Earth because when you have an Earth that has a rotation now, we know that space gives us variable rotation rates of different planets. We even have planets out there that we've observed, in the TRAPPIST constellation called TRAPPIST-1, where you have I think about 7 tidally locked planets, meaning that the planet is always one side of the planet is always going to face the sun as it basically goes around the sun. So you're going to have one side that's going to be very cold and one side that's going to be very hot. And then when you look at basically the ice ages we have on the Earth, the major ice ages,
Mhm.
it's like you only could get a solar day when there's a sun, right? Because we know that a solar day is 24 hours, and then we have a sidereal day. In
Yeah,
the
I'm
Genesis
aware.
model, the sun comes into its formation on the first, well, I'm going to call the fourth Earth rotation. So it's like what I'm saying is that the mechanisms of observation has not contradicted yet the Bible. What I would say is a contradiction. It would be something like, say, like if I tell you that the Earth existed on the back of a turtle, right?
Yeah.
then you could tell me like, you know what, our observation showed there's no turtle.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let me get to this because and just for the record, if you look in a Zoom chat, I posted a link for article on the entire geologic column.
Yeah.
But I want to move on from that because there is a another issue in terms of, say there was a global flood, right?
Mhm.
According to multiple Christian organization, the global flood would have been about somewhere between 24 and 2300 BC, right? Now, would this observation contradict with the Bible if we can show that there are civilization on the planet before that time that has no evidence or no idea of a global flood, and that civilization that have continued to modern day?
So are you talking about civilizations older than Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Hindu Kush Valley civilizations? Those? Or civilizations younger than those?
Okay, no, what I'm talking about is civilization that have existed at least on since 2500 BC and are still existed up at least until modern times.
So wait, what date are you putting the flood behind?
According to, okay, say
Mhm.
for example, Answers in Genesis has the flood around somewhere about 23
Oh, okay,
23
yeah,
something
Tiffany,
BC.
yeah. Okay, so with that issue right there, you have the Greek Septuagint and you have the Hebrew Masoretic. What I found with the Greek Septuagint, it gives you more time, a lot more time. See, with the Masoretic text, you could place the flood before or at around 3500 BC, right? But with that said, to have a population to make these civilizations, like Mesopotamia, Egypt, you have about 300 years to get there from the flood.
Which
Now,
is
with the Greek,
impossible, right?
yeah, I mean, it's not impossible, but it's a lot of sex. I mean, it's like you wake up,
Yes.
you're having sex. It's like a lot of sex. And I mean, yes, according to standard, yeah, that seems like highly unlikely. But with the Greek Septuagint, you have about 1,000 years, between the flood and Abraham arriving to Egypt. So with that kind of population growth rate, there's no contradiction there.
Okay.
So when it comes to like time, I use the Greek
Mhm.
Septuagint because it's like, like if you're trying to write a number and you're writing down numbers over time, it's easy to like a copyist to make a mistake. Reason why with the Greek Septuagint is the oldest Old Testament manuscript we have. When in the sense, like when you look at the Masoretic, it dates to like 1000 AD or 900 AD, and it's supposedly based off of older Hebrew manuscripts. But the only full Hebrew text we have is the Masoretic. So I'm not saying the Masoretic is a corrupt version, but when it comes to like little details like numbers, I use the Septuagint, and I found no contradiction with the numbers.
Okay.
Brothers, real quick, bro.
Okay. Go ahead.
We're gonna go for about 10 more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all want to take questions, like maybe 5-6 questions from the chat, or y'all want to wrap up after the 10 minutes?
No, I feel like most of the questions gonna be for him anyway, but it's fine by me.
What you think, Rich?
Yeah, I'm good with anything. I'm a crowd person.
All right, so I'll let y'all finish up, and then I'll drop the link in the chat.
Okay, so what's happening is that statement you make about the Septuagint placed in the flood of Noah like 1,000 years before, so that would be like what,
like
3,300 BC?
between 4,994 BC to 2754 BC. And I based that off of like when it comes to a generation, whether they had kids when they were like there's between certain generations, they don't tell you when this person had a son. So you have to like kind of have a range. But yeah, it's about 1,000 years before the basically there's 1,000 years from the flood to when Abraham entered Egypt. That's fixed for the Septuagint, that time period.
Okay, but let me get this straight. So you think that between the flood and Noah coming off the ark
Hmm.
until Abraham, that's 1,000 years?
Yeah,
So you think the
about.
population, you think, well, I'm not even going to get into that. Let's
Oh yeah, I
look.
did the math. If you do like an exponential population growth rate at the normal rate we have today, we have way more than enough people in the earth to make
Yeah,
these big civilizations.
but that contradicts the Bible in other places, though, right?
Why you say that?
Okay, it says in Matthew, I believe. I think, yeah, I think it's in Matthew that
Mhm.
from the flood to the carrying away into captivity is 14 generations. 14.
No, that's talking about from Abraham.
Yeah,
They never said to
but
the
we're
flood. Hold
talking
on.
about what it's saying is from the time of Adam until Jesus Christ is 42 generations. Now, if
You're
you're
talking about
saying,
Matthew, right?
yeah, Matthew, it's 42 generations from
He said 14
from Adam.
generations from Abraham to David, or 14 from David
Mhm.
to yeah. It started from Abraham. It didn't start from the flood.
Okay, so from Abraham
To
to
David, or
David.
14 generations. Yeah.
Okay, now according to the Septuagint or whatever translation you prefer, what
Mhm.
was the time period of David's reign?
The time period of David's reign.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was. I mean, the time period, or how many years he reigned.
No, the time period, the years, the
Oh,
time, like
so this is
because
more. Yeah, this is more like a conversation I had early on the channel about the Exodus. So
Mhm.
basically, like there's a whole thing about this third intermediate period of Egypt, which basically we claim it was aged too long. Like basically, it's like 400 years, and we say it
Mhm.
should be reduced to 100 years because what that 400 years do, it causes too many dark ages for many civilizations. Like it causes the Greek Dark Age, and if you basically place the Exodus where it belongs, which is in the second intermediate period, it will create a Hebrew Dark Age, and there's other civilizations that have dark ages based on that calculation.
Yeah, but
So
I don't want to
basically,
get away from the point.
So David would exist during the times of like Ramses the second, the third, around that, about the new dynasty, like 1200 BC.
So 1200 BC, and you're saying that Abraham was what 4500 BC. So you're saying from 4500 to 1200 is 14 generations,
No. The flood would occur like 4500 BC, around that, give or
and
take.
and and Abraham was living at what time?
So it will be 1,000 years after the flood. So
So
basically,
it'll be
Abraham would be around. He would be like Pharaoh Intef the second, which was
so around.
basically like 2118 BC, around there. 2000 BC would be around Abraham was 75 years old.
And David was 1200 BC.
Yeah, so I'll put David around like the times of Ramses. I don't have the exact numbers with me here, but yeah,
So when
because
was
it.
Moses?
So Moses will be during the second intermediate period, the 14th dynasty. So that'll be around like 14 something BC. Hold on.
I'm looking at your timeline here, and this not only does this not make
No.
sense, it
I'm
doesn't.
sorry. No. I mean, no, 1700 BC. I'm sorry. 1769 BC, around there. So Abraham will be 2000 BC. Moses will be 17 BC. They put the Exodus as around 1689 BC, and then the fall of Jericho 1649, and then you have the time of the judges, and then to David. So that'll put David in the New Kingdom with Solomon.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you got David at 1200 BC. So 1200 BC until AD. Let's say the AD era. That's 14 generations
From where? From?
from David to Christ.
Oh, you're talking about the Matthew genealogy?
Yes.
Yeah. So we do know that, like the Matthew genealogy, like there are people missing.
No, but that's not the point I'm making. It's not about the people. It says 14 generations. So based on that, we use the guideline, say 14 generations. Based on what you're saying, 14 generations is about 1200 years. So if we take 14 by
Mhm.
3, that's 42. So you're saying from the time of that time until Christ would be 4200 years.
So the 14 generations from Abraham to David, and you're saying how much what you take? What's the number you're given?
No, you said David was around 1200 BC, right?
Yeah, 13, 1200. Yeah, because I have what is it? The fifth year of Rehoboam's reign,
Hmm.
around 1208 BC. So Rehoboam was Solomon's son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, what I'm saying is, if that's 14 generations from David to Christ, right?
Hmm.
That's 1200 years because that's 1200 years, 1200 BC, and Christ was about, let's say, AD.
Hmm. So are you saying, okay, 14 generations? You're saying is 1200 years?
That's according to the timeline that you're
Yeah.
giving me.
Okay. No, you say
But
you're using the Matthew genealogy as basically the 14
yes,
generations as 1200 years.
yes. So
And
so if we go from David back to Abraham, it should be also 1200 years, right? Or
so is there uniformity with this? Like meaning that, okay, so are you given a fixed age per generation with this genealogy?
so, but that's what it's saying. It's giving you a timeline of the Bible. That this is why when Bishop Usher calculated the age of the earth, he was using this genealogy because according to what this is saying, uh, well, most scholars don't place David at 1200, but you do. So you're saying that's 1200 years, basically for 14 generations.
From Abraham to David. So I'm saying from Abraham to David are 1200 years. I mean, I to be honest with you, I never did the calculation using the Matthew genealogy
Hmm.
because I know that from there's some Christian apologists out there that can answer this better than me. But from what I understand, that this genealogy wasn't to be taken with a account. It was supposed to be written so people could understand theological background to the Messiah. But like I said,
Okay.
I can't comment on the Matthew 1 genealogy right now. Like I'll be out my league if I do that, and I don't want
All
to like
right.
give the wrong answer.
All right. Let's get away from that because
Yeah.
we only had 10 minutes. So what I would suggest is that you look into that some more because in my view it's not adding up. But I want to get to this before
Mm,
we close.
yeah.
There is a civilization in southern Turkey called Göbekli Tepe. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Mm-mm.
Okay, that civilization or that settlement has been dated to the pre-Patrilineolithic period. That's between 9500 and 8000 BCE.
Mm-mm.
And
So
no evidence
this is before Mesopotamia and Egypt, right?
way before.
Okay.
And there's no evidence. The site is right there today. You can actually take a trip and go look at it. There's no evidence of a flood. What do you say about that?
So this is a civilization that existed, you're saying, before Mesopotamia and Egypt, right? And they're saying there's no
9500 BCE. So yes,
And
way before,
and they get this
thousands
date
of years
based.
before.
And how did they get the date? What they base it on? Pottery or strata?
They're based it on different things. They're based it on the megaliths that they made. They're basing it on pottery, on the type of agriculture. There are a lot of different things. This is a whole field of study called anthropology. You can go look it up.
No, I'm
It's
familiar with it, but I want to know like what was the measurement they took that gave them that date? Was it the strata? I mean, you can't say pottery because like pottery dating comes with after the civilizations and stuff. Like remember before Mesopotamia, all these things. They say it's hunter gatherers, right? So
no,
you're
but
saying
this was the very onset of the what they would call the farming revolution. This is one of the earliest site after we came out of that hunter gatherer phase.
Mhm.
This is just out of the last ice age.
Well, I do know, biblically speaking, right? We do have a time period before the flood. We do have men before the flood, like you have 2,000 years. So you're saying this civilization should be placed before the flood. So therefore, if it was placed before the flood, there should be evidence of a flood. You're saying, right?
The flood not should have would have wiped out this entire
Mm.
civilization, right?
So, but I say I need to know what was the dating method, not a dating method, like what did they date to basically place the civilization back? If like basically if they dated the strata they were buried under, or
No,
they
it's not
dated.
buried. It's not buried.
Mhm.
It's there. I am
So,
assuming
I
that
mean, so
you know
they didn't have to dig it up. It was just there, like you could just like.
it's excavated like, but it's not. It wasn't buried.
I mean, yeah,
I
it was
mean, they were
excavated. Like, like for instance, like a Varus was buried under the city of Ramses, but you have to dig to find the thing. So you're saying they didn't have to dig at all?
no. I'm not saying that. Well, stuff was on top of it, but it wasn't like it was buried where they had to bring in equipment to dig it out. It was just like getting the top stuff off of the layer. But that's beside the point. These are all they're used in several different methods to come up with a date. Like I'm saying, they probably use radiocarbon dating. They're dating the type of stone tools. They're looking at the pottery, at the architecture.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at the type of animal bones and stuff that they found. They're
Mm-hmm.
looking at all of things, and they have dated it to between 9,500 and 8,000 BCE. That's at least 3,000 years before Mesopotamia and Egypt.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I will have to see because like my position basically is not challenged by strata because like I said, we know that nature could bury things under old strata. Like I mentioned, there's things like the London hammer. So because something is buried under something that's old doesn't mean the thing that's buried is old.
No,
So
no,
if
no. Yeah. So, but no, but what I'm saying is, it's there. You can see it. You can actually go look at it, and there's no evidence of a flood of anything, any water going through there.
what's the
Now
name of the civilization? What was the name you said?
it's called Gobekli Tepe.
Okay, yeah, I heard of that. Black Tepe. I
Yeah,
think I basically had a conversation with in the atheist group about this. They brought this up.
and
Yeah.
also go, I get you're not familiar with that. Also, are you aware that scientists can date trees, right? And
Hmm.
they have found trees that is 8,000 years on the planet, no evidence of a flood. Also, they can dig in the ice in Antarctica, the ice cores. They do ice cores where they cut down into the ice, and the ice is laid down year by year, and they can count the number of years that the ice has been laid down, and it goes way beyond 6,000 years old. So those are just a few things. I realize we don't have much time, but
They
what
said
I
what?
would
What you said?
suggest,
What was the oldest tree found? How old was it?
about 8,000 years old, I think. There was a
You
tree in
have to
Sweden.
provide a reference to that too, because like from what I understand, they said the oldest tree that we dated was Methuselah, and it's only 4,853 years old.
Okay.
So, like I said, you would probably have to provide that link in the chat too.
Yeah, I can get you that. But what I'm and also about the ice cores.
Okay.
You understand what I'm talking about? The
Yeah, you
ice
gotta remember,
cores.
like you could have an old Earth. So remember, the old Earth could have old ice.
No, but
So
the ice would have to show evidence of the flood, right?
I mean, wouldn't if you have old ice here, right?
Mhm.
And there's a flood that comes after the ice, you're saying that old ice has to have show evidence of the flood because it's older than the flood. Then you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I was saying, like, how would you show like old ice if it's older than the flood? Like, how can like I'm saying, like, how would you show the evidence of a flood with something that's been here before
Yeah,
the flood?
no, that's how they know there was a flood that covered the entire planet. Because when you look at the ice cores,
Hmm.
first of all, the ice cores wouldn't be there that long. It would, because it's laid down every year, and when
Yeah.
they count the years, it is way more than 6,000 years. So if there was a flood, then the ice cores wouldn't be that old in the first place when they
Yeah, no.
counted it.
But if the ice was here before the flood, would that still contradict the flood?
Yes, the flood
How is that?
would melt the ice. Yes or no?
Which layer of the ice would it be? Like the layer that you're measuring? Because the older ice would be lower, right?
Wouldn't the flood melt all the ice?
But they mean at the top layer, like at the poles.
All the ice. I mean, everything. It says the entire earth was covered over water. Remember that Noah sent out the pigeon, and it couldn't find anywhere to rest
Yeah.
because the entire earth was covered.
So
So,
saying so ice that's been here for like let's say like 4 million years, right?
mhm.
A flood that happened, like you say, like what 4,000 years ago, whatever the date is you want to put, that flood would melt that ice that's 8 million years old. Like,
Yes.
but the ice that's 8 million years old wouldn't be near the surface at all.
What do you mean it wouldn't be near the surface?
Because the old ice, what do they? Okay, where do they find the old ice? Isn't it when they dig into
It's
the
near to
cores
the poles.
near to the poles, and they, the digger they deep, they find the old ice, right?
All right, brothers. I actually let y'all go 20 minutes. So,
Sorry
uh,
about that.
oh no, y'all good. Y'all good. Y'all was building, so it is what it is. We got the scripture ripper, the best researcher outside of Dr. Reggie in the building, my little bro, Sabio. And he got a question. I don't know for who. Go ahead, Sabio.
Yo, what up, y'all? What up? Can y'all hear me?
Yep,
Peace,
yep.
Savior. What's up?
Peace, peace. Yeah, the tree that you're talking about, I've heard about the tree, and it is about 8,000 years old. I don't know if he's aware of it, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
But
one I was talking about, somewhere in Sweden, I think.
yeah, but the question I have, I don't want to go too deep, but I just want to ask the brother Richie Garfield,
Mhm.
how did the ancients measure time?
How do they measure time?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be with the cycles of the sun and moon and the stars?
Okay. Since you answered that,
Mhm.
how could you have a day or a night without the sun?
Well, how do we what how do we have a day now? What causes the day?
How can you have a day without the sun? We have a sun and a moon now, so we have a measurement of time. The Bible said there was a day without the sun, sir.
Yeah. Okay,
So
so
how
I'm
would
asking you.
so stop. So stop. Answer
No,
the question. How could you have
I'm
a day
asking you the
without the
question. How do okay? I'm gonna answer your question. A day is not dependent upon the sun. As we know by observation, a day is based on the rotation of the Earth, right? The Earth is 360. So at one point, the Earth is going to have to return back to the point where it started from. So that's how you get a day. Now, when you have a sun, when you have the sun, you can make a reference point with the sun. But by our reality shows that a day is controlled by the rotation of the Earth on its axis. That's how we get days. So with that said, there's no observation that contradicts that, because if you look at it now, if you have a globe Earth when God created it, right, you could have a day without a sun. That's all logical right there.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
How is that not logical?
The Earth rotates around the sun.
But it spins on the axis. We get a day.
The Earth rotates around the sun.
It orbits the sun, but it rotates on its axis. Have you ever heard of rogue planets?
Listen, sir.
Have you ever heard of rogue planets?
You cannot have a day without a sun.
So you're saying the Earth cannot rotate? Hold on. Are you saying a planet cannot rotate without a star?
You cannot have a day without a sun.
Hold on. Answer my question. Can a planet rotate without a star, without a neighboring star?
Can a planet rotate without a neighboring star?
Yes.
Without a sun, without something without something holding it in orbit? No, it's going.
But hold on, but
it's going.
No, it doesn't. See, you have an antiquated Newtonian method of gravity. Remember, Newtonian gravity states that we're in a fabric. So even if the sun is gone, the planet's not going to fly anywhere. Gravity is not based on some invisible force connecting.
No. No. No one's talking about gravity. Don't convolute the thing that I'm talking about. This is what you do. I asked you 3 very simple questions. 2 simple questions.
Mm-hmm.
How do you measure time? And you answered it. You said with the sun. I asked you, how did the ancients measure time? Okay, so if they had something to measure time by, the sun, how can you have a day without the sun? Because the Bible states in the beginning, God said, let there be light.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw that the light was good, and he created the light from the darkness, and
separated
the first day.
Separated the light from the darkness.
He separated the light from the darkness. That's what I said, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So how was there a day and there was not a measurement of time established?
But I already told you, if you have an Earth, that means you have an axis. And if it could spin on the axis, you have a rotation. You have a reference. You understand what I'm saying? Once basically, like a circle is 360. So basically, if I put like a pin on top of the circle and I spin it and it comes back to the same point where I spin it from, that's what you call a day.
Not without a sun.
All right.
Not without a sun.
Sabio, you got a question for Google Scholar, or you got a different question for the brother?
So Google Scholar, can you answer that for me?
No, because it doesn't line up with science. My personal view on it, I understand the point he's trying to, how he's trying to spin it, but for me, it's just a story that was being told by these people. I don't think it was meant to be taken literally like most Christians take it. But that's my personal view.
All right, because I'm not trying to get frustrated, but it's frustrating, and because you're trying to make something fit that doesn't fit.
I mean, you can say that. Okay, you could say that.
Hold on.
Based on the logic I gave you, doesn't make sense.
Hold on. I wasn't finished because I'm finna get up out of here. Let me finish. Let me get my last thought up out of here. Because we know that without the sun and the moon, we have no measurement of time. We know this.
That's false.
No, we know. No, we know this.
Because even with
hold on. And we also know without the sun and the moon, there is no light.
That's false.
So without the sun and the moon,
we got other stars out there.
There is no time. there is no time without the sun that holds these planets, this planet, and the other set 8 that is in its orbit. We will not exist without this sun.
But
All
the
right.
sun doesn't hold us in like orbit per se. We just basically are affected by its gravity.
Stop talking about orbit, because now you're trying to convolute the argument and you're trying to act smart and you're not. And this, and I didn't want to say that. And I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to say that. But he's trying to cut me off, and I'm trying to get up out of here.
Don't start with the insults, bro. Just ask the question. It's all
I'm trying to get up out of here, and he keeps cutting me off. So I'm trying to get my point across, and he keeps cutting me off because he knows he was wrong. You cannot measure time if there's nothing to measure time by. So you could not have a day.
Okay, do you ever heard of Caesium atom?
You cannot have a day.
Caesium atom gives a second. So even without the sun, we have seconds.
So you show me a time. Show me a day without time.
Time is just a measurement of a cycle. Like if you're on Venus,
let him
answer, Sabio.
Let me get my mic set up real quick. My bad, y'all.
Show me a day without time.
If you go on Venus, right? A day on Venus is about 200 and something Earth days because of the slow rotation rate of Venus, right? So time is just relative to what you're measuring.
Sabio, let him answer.
Time is just a measurement of motion to a reference point.
The sun.
So if you had okay, yes, we have our solar day.
Sabio, let the man answer the question. You made your statement. You asked the question. Let him answer. That's it. You don't cut him off as soon as he starts talking. Let him answer. Then you respond. It ain't complicated. Go ahead, Rich.
So, Sabia, have you ever heard of a sidereal day? Hello? Okay, a sidereal day is basically 23 hours and 56 minutes. Solar day is 24 hours because the reference is to the sun. But the sidereal day is basically when the Earth makes a full rotation. That's not dependent upon the sun. And that's all I'm saying.
So again, wrong. Because everything that you said revolves around the sun. So without the sun, Venus would not have the measurement of 223 days or whatever it takes for it to move. It moves around the orbit that hold the system, the star that holds it in orbit, the life-giving force, the sun. Without the sun, there is no time measurement, sir. You cannot measure time without the sun.
Yes, you
That's
could.
why all you need is
a reference point.
Stop. So yes, the sun is the reference. The sun is the reference point. So
exactly.
Without the sun, there is no measurement of time.
So you're saying that we need a sun to have time. That's what you're saying on Earth. So you're saying if our sun disappears, you're saying there'll be no more time on Earth? The Earth will stop rotating?
Basically.
Really? That's not scientific right there.
We would cease to exist.
Yes, the sun does affect the rotation of the Earth.
Disagree with me.
Look, the sun does rotate the rotation of the Earth just as the moon does. As the moon gets closer to the Earth, the rotation rate changes. We know that because of the gravitational effect of the space fabric. But what I'm saying is that the mechanism that causes that rotation is not the sun. See, the Earth has its own axis by itself. Just how you have what you call rogue planets out there in space, which we observe without telescopes, that exist without no star. So does it mean you need a star to have a axis?
We're not talking about rogue planets.
But the Earth is a planet. But the Earth is a planet, and every planet follows the same mechanism and function.
This planet that revolves around this sun, and the one that we live on, and the ones within this galaxy, and the one that we live on.
Your question was Your question was, let me tell you why. Let me tell you where your question comes from. You're saying that when the people wrote the Bible, they basically, are talking about the sun and how we measure time. But look how that doesn't make no sense either. If it was writing based on what they see, why would they not include the sun in their measurement for the first day? Think about that. Think about that, because the logic would be that, you know
They
what,
didn't.
we
Because
basically
they didn't.
measure time.
They
No, no,
didn't.
listen,
put
listen,
the
wait,
sun to
listen,
the
listen. Wait,
first day.
hold on. Let me finish. Every ancient culture at that time period, believed that the sun was the greatest thing, that it was God, the God to them, right? So the sun was the go off for everything. So it would be the purpose of a day. But here you have this book talking about you have a day without the sun. That sounds illogical back in that time period. But when you look back to modern times now, you say, oh no, we have a round earth on the axis. We definitely can have a day without the sun.
Well, look, according to your book, I can go through it by heart. I can go through the creation by verbatim off the top of my head. So the next day he created the plants.
The third
Then
day.
the next day after that, he created the what was it? The waters.
No.
And
The
then after
fourth
that,
day was the sun and moon.
then the fourth day was the sun and the moon. Yeah, the fourth
Yeah.
day was the sun and the moon.
Yeah.
So if the sun wasn't created to the fourth day, you have no plants, because the plants need sunlight to reproduce.
To grow. Yeah, you're right.
To grow.
You need water and sun to grow. Yep.
The water is going to be what? Tepid, dead. There's nothing going to live in the water. So
Okay.
there's nothing.
All right.
So we have a dead planet.
All right, my brother. We're gonna move to outside the cube. Get his question. Cube, you got a question for each brother?
Now, unfortunately, I only have a question for one brother. I apologize. And yeah, to the brother. What's your name again, brother? The brother that was just beating up the other guy. What's your name, bro?
Brother
me?
Richie Garfield.
I wasn't beating him up.
What's your name, bro?
Richie Garfield.
Richie Garfield, man. Hey, salute to you, man. Nice to meet you.
Same to you, bro.
Yeah, I disown a lot of these atheists or these supposed atheists. So I have to disown a lot of them until they come to my school to learn a little bit. But
here he go.
I have to, brother. My apologies, but I do have to ask you, man. You say you're doing okay. You say you're doing well. That's great. So I do want to ask you, specifically when it he just shaking his head like goddamn. When it comes to, and I wrote down a few questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the Cambrian explosion, would you be able to detail that and explain to me exactly what you feel it is?
Well, when you bring up the Cambrian explosion, that's kind of like one of the creationists per se tools to show basically how the evolutionary process is flawed, because the transition fossils between the Cambrian from the single cell is missing. So to say that these things evolved from single cells and we don't have no evidence of the transition fossils. To me, the Cambrian, like the Bible says that life started from the water first, and we observe that. You understand what I'm saying? Like when you look at.
Well, hold on. Before you continue, no, I don't understand what you're saying, but continue.
Yeah, no, it says in Genesis, before there was land creatures, before there was man, he created life from the waters.
Oh, okay.
And this is what we observe in nature, that life did come from the waters first.
Oh, really? So, well, let's pause right there and let's delve into that briefly. You just said that we can observe that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you just run it down briefly what we can observe when it comes to life coming from the water? Can you run through that real quick?
I mean, I'm not a expert in geology or
Whoa, brother. Listen, listen. You're not on trial, so don't cop plea. I'm only conversing with you. And
no, so what's your question? You're asking me? What's the question?
How soon we forget? I get it, brother.
No, because you're asking me a question about geology, but if it has a reference to the Bible,
brother, if I were attempting to ask you anything, you would probably be dead. So I don't want to ask you anything. I want to ask you a few things. Got it?
yeah. So
Okay.
rephrase the question again, so I could just understand what you're saying.
Okay. So what I want to ask you is, how do you feel about life coming from water? Explain that to me.
How do I feel about it?
Yeah.
I feel it's great. Like, what kind of question is that? Like,
let me add a few things to it.
Yeah, please.
No problem. How do you feel about life coming from water as it states it in the Bible, as you initially said?
Yeah. I think that, it says it. Life, he's the first life. Well, not necessarily the first life, because, we have plant life, which was planted inside the earth.
Whoa, hold on. Now we have to pause, because you said not necessarily the first life. So where did the first life begin? If it's not necessarily,
let me be clear too. Yeah.
Whoa. I want you to be clear, and I'm going to give you the utmost respect, and I'm going to allow you to speak. But you said not necessarily the first life. So what is necessarily the first life? Go ahead, brother.
It'll be like microorganisms. It depends what we define as life, because what science defines as life is like the smallest single cell organism is defined as life. The Bible kind of defines life from soulless creatures like, the beast and the men. But when it comes to the things that we observe in the earth, like we observe that microorganisms.
Can I pause? Can I pause you momentarily?
Okay, go ahead.
Hey, Q, real quick.
Yeah.
I know you're trying to play with your food, but Black Lion got questions too. So let's.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna speed it up. I'm gonna speed it right on. I'm gonna keep it to just 2 questions.
Don't be shocked if what's on your plate bites you back though.
Nah, not at all. Okay. No, we good. So let me speed it up. So you said initially that life comes from where? Just so I can understand what you're talking about. Life comes from where?
Wait, in regards to what day you're talking about in the Bible, let's be more specific.
Whoa, brother. Listen, I need you to follow me. Follow me. Life comes from where? Where did life begin? Can you show me that?
In Earth? What kind of, okay,
what
life
brother,
you talking about? Listen.
Brother, listen. I'm going to listen. Brother, I'm going to listen.
Hold on. I need you to clarify your question. This is why I'm answering you. In the term of science, right? When you talk about life, you're talking about from the microscopic organisms, right?
No,
when
I'm
the
not.
biblical terms of life is talking about soulless creatures, like whales, fish, birds, beasts. So what are you talking about when it comes to life?
Okay.
Are you talking about microorganisms, or are you talking about creatures? That's what I'm trying to clarify with you.
The reason I didn't cut you off is because I want you to have the ability to speak, but I'm not talking about none of that shit. I'm asking you simply, and I need you to answer the question. Where does life begin? Period. That's all I'm asking you.
You mean currently, like right now?
Brother.
What are you talking about, in the history of the earth, or is this a philosophical question you're asking me? Like, it's not clear. Because you're saying, where does life begin? Like, brother, what do you mean?
Brother, I'm asking, brother, all I want is an answer. Where does life begin? That's all.
So it's a philosophical question. Okay. Life begins when 2 people get together, or 2 creatures, and they copulate, and life begins.
Okay. Oh, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for starting there, because it makes my job this much easier. So life begins when 2 creatures, according to you and your Bible, come together. So if that is where life began, then now I need to ask you, how did God create life when 2 creatures didn't come together to create it?
Well, here's the thing, we were creating His image and His likeness, right?
Whoa, brother, please.
Brother,
no.
I'm gonna answer my question. Hey, you cut me off. How am I answer my question? You cut me off.
No, I want you
you
to
can't
answer.
do that. You can't do that. You cannot do that. If I'm answering the question, I'm gonna basically answer it smart. Don't be scared of the smart answer.
Let him
me
answer,
answer it.
Let him answer. Let him answer.
Okay, we're creating the image of God, right? And we can't create artificial chromosomes in the lab. So we could create life without the sex process, or we can't really do it yet, but we're on that road, right? How is it hard to perceive a higher being doing that? Why is that hard to perceive? If
Okay,
we're
can I
basically,
answer you?
Go ahead.
Hold
Okay.
on. But wait. Let's. So, Richie, were you done responding?
Yeah, I'm done responding.
Because we got to let him respond.
No.
Before we chime back in.
No. You're right about that. He said we can't do it, and that's when I butt in. I apologize, but he said we can't do it. That's what he said. Did you say that?
I said we're on the road to doing it. We basically create artificial chromosomes in the lab.
Hold on, brother.
But
listen,
the complexity of a human being is still, beyond our ability. But we're
listen,
close. We creating artificial chromosomes right now. Yeah, go on.
Bro, listen. I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. If I say something, I'm going to stand on it. But who I do not talk to are disingenuous people. You just said that we can't do it. That's exactly what you just said. Now, if I was petty, I would have him replay the shit, and you said exactly that we can't do it. Do you remember?
Yes, I said do it yet. I said we're on the road there because listen what I said. We could create. Listen what I said.
Brother,
we
stop!
Could create
Don't interrupt me, brother. Don't
chromosomes.
interrupt me, brother. Please don't interrupt me. I'm in the middle of speaking. You said we can't do it yet. So that means when I said we can't do it, that means we can't do it. Do you agree with that? Yes or no? Before I continue,
I'm gonna say we can't do it yet. I'm not gonna agree with you.
Which means we can't do it. Correct or incorrect?
That's like saying before we went to the moon,
brother,
we can't do it. I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna say we can't do it yet. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm scientifically, apt to know that the possibilities of man, what we could do. You feel what I'm saying? Because I know we created an image of God. That's my personal testimony, though. I'm not gonna force that upon you, though. Like you're trying to force. What? You trying to force your.
You know what?
I'm saying your way of thinking upon me.
Asked you, brother. I asked you a yes or no
logic.
question. I asked you a yes or no question, and now you're going on into some other things that I'm not even talking about.
Because you're trying to take
brother,
words out my mouth.
Please be quiet while I continue. Brother, please be quiet while I continue.
Go ahead.
You're going into other things, which shows that what you say, you acknowledge what you said is that we cannot do it, and that's all I was talking about.
Can I do it yet?
I apologize if you
can I do it yet?
Brother,
so Q, his answer can't be nuanced?
No, listen, there can be nuance, but at the same time, when I'm looking for a specific answer to build on his nuanced answer, he won't even allow me to get to the nuance because he wants to add other things to it before we can have a nuanced conversation.
You could clone sheep, my dude. You could clone sheep. You know that, right?
He's doing it again. He's doing it again.
How can we can't do it yet? That's why I think yes.
So Q, what's your next question so we can move on because we got to get the black line.
Yes, I had a few questions that I wrote down, but you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and leave it right there because I can't really converse how I want to.
Man, go on.
No, brother, no. I can't get into it. I actually wrote down about 6 questions, but I can't get into it. So I'll say, man, peace to you. I think you did a great job. I think the other brother did a great job, and I'll speak to you next time.
Or just stay on, Q, and then we'll get the black line. We'll come back to you. Or Savio, whoever, however whatever the rotation is. If Savio got another question, we'll go to him.
Well, it's already 11.
We'll get back around to you.
It's already 11 on my side, man. I think I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down. But I will say this to the brother, man. If you want to converse, I'm open to having a conversation with you.
Definitely, bro. Definitely.
Okay. It is a little.
Man, Richie Garfield turning into Cap 10K. Everybody want to talk to him.
Well, you know what? But hey, listen, no disrespect, but I'm not impressed. Because this brother didn't even know what a stratum was. So, like, I had a lot of questions dealing with that. And this brother is...
Boy, y'all love the little insults, boy. Well, y'all can't.
No. Listen, brother. This brother is ill-equipped to deal with a lot of questions, and that's why I wanted to question him on it. But it's cool. I'll let him go and have fun.
But that's better for you than if I'm ill-equipped. It should have been a problem questioning you.
No.
The
It's not.
The whole point is to basically make me look like I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm trying to represent the God of the Bible.
Bro, listen. I don't have the time to do this. What I'm telling you, bro. It's 11:06 on my time. I have to wake up at 5:40.
You're on East Coast.
Bro, I have to wake up at 5:40 in the morning. What time do you have to wake up?
I give you that, bro. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, man.
I'm not, bro. Listen, I'm saying, bro, we could chop it up another time.
Yes, let's go. At least you know what you're gonna get into next time. You know
okay. Well, good night, brother. Thanks for speaking.
Yes, my
me.
brother.
Okay?
And you know it's all love on the streets. You know, if we see each other, we ain't be talking about these things. We're talking about other things. You know what I'm saying?
You already
I just hope you know. I just hope you know that though. Like we talking about this, but if we see each other in the streets, you know it's all love though. You feel me?
Bro, of course. Come on, man. I'm gonna beat you up on this shit, and you're gonna get beat. Come on, man. You good?
No doubt, bro.
Hey, you guys have a good night. I just feel like my brother Rasta left a lot on the plate, and I was gonna deal with him. I thought I was gonna have a little bit more time, but I didn't. So it's cool.
All right, and real quick before you go, Cube. Hey, for those who still with us, next Tuesday, Cube and I are gonna discuss. He believes the Black Hebrew Israelite organizations are a hate group.
Facts.
I disagree.
Facts.
And we're gonna chop it up next Tuesday, 8 Central Time. And so y'all tune in for that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a whole PowerPoint ready, just to get you ready, brother. I'm gonna have a whole PowerPoint ready to show you.
I'm with the shits. So yeah, we and look, this the thing, because I'm tired of all y'all cats with long hair coming on my channel of Q.
Oh shit!
I'm
gonna put a wig on.
I'm gonna put a poll in the chat. After I beat Cube up, his head gotta look like mine.
Well, see, the difference is I can grow mine back. So
man, get your ass off my channel, man. Bye.
All right, hey man,
bye, bro.
Hey, good night to y'all, man.
Peace. All right, man. Peace,
bro.
All right, Black Lion, it's on you.
Black Lion Supreme.
Hotel fam, Hotel, how you guys doing?
Hotel, my brother.
Great conversation. I'm listening, taking notes. Very good. So my first question, if you don't mind, is for Google Scholar. Google Scholar, are you familiar with the Cave of Swimmers?
Say that again?
The Cave of Swimmers. Are you familiar with that?
No, I can't say that I have, no.
They found the Cave of Swimmers at Tepe.
Oh, in Gobekli Tepe?
No, I mean, not the fire, I'm sorry. No. So it's older than 10,000 years old. It has the nuts and Shu and Geb painted on the cave wall.
Oh, okay. I get your point.
I want you to check that out for me. All right, my brother?
Yeah, I check that out.
Check that out for me. Okay.
I had, but before you go,
explain.
No, I had other examples that I could bring to the brother, but I wanted to pick the one that was easiest for him to look at and verify. So, but yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, I just want you to look into that, my brother. Then get back with me. You got matter of fact, send me that. I'm gonna send you a friend request, bro, so you can
on Facebook.
Let me know. Yeah. Let me know what you think about that.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. I'll send you a link. But anyway, my second question is for my brother, Garfield.
Mm-hmm.
So, Garfield, are you familiar? Do you agree that the sun is made out of gas? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So you understand, right, that it is the pressure from those gases that made the Earth start to rotate on its axis.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So without the sun, the Earth would not be rotating every 23 hours, 53 minutes, and 4 seconds around its axis.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
So we understand that there would not be any rotation around the sun unless or around the Earth axis would not rotate without the pressure from those particular gases that the sun was born from, because suns are born from nebulas, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So we got that established. That's something else you said, but
Was that the question? Was that the question right there?
Well, my question was, do you agree with the sun being made up of gases? You said
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then I want to explain why the Earth rotates around on its own axis. It's because of that pressure. You agree with me on that, right?
So I want to add to that, like in a scenario where there is no sun, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a planet.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk to you about.
Yeah,
go
yeah.
Ahead,
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the scenario that if there's a planet without a sun, right?
Right.
Does the planet still have an axis?
You're talking about rogue planets, right? You're talking about
let's talk about rogue planets.
Now you can teach me something. Do you say that rogue planets rotate?
Well, planets have axes. Like, I mean, the existence of the sun, doesn't create the axis.
Let me clear that up. Rogue planets, even though they're rogue planets, they started out in a solar system. There are no planets that started out in a vacuum. All planets started out as part of a system. What happened is that some planets get kicked out of a system because of one reason, because of interaction with another planet, or the star dying.
You're talking about planetary mass. Basically, a big rock. Basically. Now, I don't know this. That's why I'm asking Garfield here, because I don't know this. Do rogue planets rotate? I know they orbit, but do they rotate?
So basically, like if the gravity of the sun is having, and it's not just the gravity of the sun, it's also the gravity of the moon that affects the rotation of the Earth.
Right.
So if we don't have these planetary bodies on the Earth, that must mean that it wouldn't really rotate like that, right?
Exactly. That's my. I haven't looked this up. I swear. I don't really know, but that's what common sense, as my brother Xavier always goes in. That's what common sense tells me. If the pressure is there, then I don't believe that it rotates. So that's it. That's all I wanted to talk to you about, my good brother. And thanks again for the bill we had. Google Scholar, you a beast. You a beast, bro. You a beast.
Thank you, man. I'm trying. I'm just trying to be like you.
You're a beast, my brother. Keep up the good work. Pianki, you already know.
No doubt.
I'll stick around and listen to everybody else. I'm gonna go on.
All right, Sabio, did you have one more before we get out of here?
Nah, I don't have any more. I just want people to just start being honest and stop trying to act like they're really answering the question, because the question wasn't that hard to say. If you know you can't have time without the sun, and we know where the pressures and how the sun causes Earth and all the other planets to rotate, then just go ahead and say, just be honest and say, no, you can't have time without the sun. I mean, it's not that hard.
So I'm going to just add, in a scenario, we have a rogue planet, right? It doesn't have a neighboring star.
That was just dealt with.
No, but look at the scenario. So you're saying it's impossible for a pressure outside, because remember, we're all in the vacuum. So you're saying it's impossible for a rogue planet to rotate from some other outside pressure source? And I'm like, look, what I'm saying is that I'm not placing this as the event. I'm talking about the mechanism that the universe provides to us and using those mechanisms to explain the biblical. So what I'm saying is that because what you just did right there, you kind of like was kind of proving my point then, that these rotations took longer periods of time. This is why we measure, like, the universe to be billions of years and the Earth to be billions of years, because the Earth was going through these slow rotations until we got to the solar period with the sun. So basically that just kind of proved my point there then, with the whole pressure thing.
No, because it is the direct pressure from the placement of the sun in reference to the Earth that causes the Earth to rotate.
24 hours.
Now you would have to show well, 23 hours, 53 minutes.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying then. So if that's the case, then we should expect, if you have a Earth that doesn't have a neighboring star like the sun, right?
Mhm.
And it exists in that scenario, then you should expect the Earth to basically, have a slower rotation.
Yeah, but you touched on something yourself. You touched on something yourself. You calculated how long it takes. What was it, Mars that you mentioned to rotate?
He said Jupiter.
Was it Jupiter?
No, Venus.
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 I
just use that as reference to show
that was a good reference, because look how long it takes compared to the Earth. So that means the farther away a particular planet is, the less effectiveness from the sun that it has. You're talking about a rogue planet somewhere deep out that's nowhere near a star. So what? And if you want to say that some outside force could cause it to rotate, you would have to show this force and show the effectiveness on this outside source that it's having on this rogue planet.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course, I would have to show observation. I don't have an observation of that.
Yeah, you make good hypotheses.
But what do you think all the science is? What do you think all the science is? Like most of this, everything outside the observation is all hypothesis and theories.
Well,
even look at even Earth's formation itself is still a hypothesis, because, like I said, they have all these hypotheses about how water got here.
But there's some other scientific theory.
Hold on, let me tell you, because here's a misconception.
The formation of the Earth is not a hypothesis.
Let me make a point. Let me make a point. Everybody says that all the elements that exist come from the sun, right? But guess what? There are 3 elements that don't come from the sun's explosion. You know what that is? One of them is boron. And you know what boron is? Boron is what makes up the cell walls of plants. You don't get boron from the explosion of the sun. What happens is that you have to have another process called cosmic ray spallation. So the sun itself can't produce plants.
But where does that? But you're right. But where does that source come from? That source comes from carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acid, and amino acids. That is the main components that brought life to this planet, right there. So you
but a sun itself can't give you that, though. A sun itself won't give you plant life.
But meteorites can. We find amino acids on meteorites. We don't know the complete origin. You're absolutely right about that. But that doesn't answer the question of rogue planets being able to rotate. That doesn't answer the question of the measurement of time. That's an outside question. Go ahead.
But here's the similarities that we all have, and this is what I'm trying to bring my point to now. That we have observation that we cannot deny, right? But everything that we explain, even when it comes to Earth's formation, all these things, these are hypotheses based off of things we see in space, see in the cosmos, and we formulate an opinion, a scientific opinion based on that. But guess what? Where is your observation of that?
No, but the forming of planet is not a hypothesis. Go ahead, Google Scholar. This is your show.
Real quick, before you go, Google Scholar, we got Thomas White in the building. So I want to give him a chance to chime in before we get ready to close out. But go ahead and finish, Google Scholar. I ain't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I wanted to clear up a few things, because the brother keep mentioning that the scientific theories that there are hypotheses, and since we're talking about science, it's very important for us to talk about the difference between a theory and an hypothesis, right?
Yeah.
The theory of the formation of the planets and the solar system, it's not an hypothesis anymore. The things like plate tectonics, things like the theory of evolution, these are not hypotheses anymore. An hypothesis is when you look at something and you say, I think that this is the way that has happened. But the theory is when you go out and you do the experiments, you do the test, and it holds up, then all the data is pointing to that, then that's when you have a theory. So it's very different for you to say that the formation of the Earth is still a theory.
Planetary formation is still a hypothesis, because remember, the angular momentum of our sun is lesser than that of the planets. So if you're using that model of basically, you know, in the nebula that planets was formed, how do you explain how do you explain the
But
greater angular momentum of the planets when it should be
but
greater at the sun? So there's
but
things
the
that I'm
birth
saying
So
there's
wait, wait,
things
wait, wait.
the
there,
Are
birth
you
of
saying
planets
science has no explanation for this?
the
that's
birth
the
of
thing. That's
planets have
why
been
it's still a hypothesis.
have been observed. You haven't heard this in the scientific world? They have
No,
No,
I
been
looked
we
that
have
observed.
up.
observed. We have
The,
observed
Galileo,
planets in the.
the birth
Galileo
of
and
Hold
planets.
on,
Copernicus confirmed the
hold on,
planets were
All
round.
right,
hold
all
on,
right, all
Savior.
right, y'all.
Hold
Check
on,
it out.
Savior.
Check it out.
Hold on, hold on.
Let's let
Hold
Thomas
on.
Thomas
Let,
chime in.
let me get this out before Thomas comes in.
Go
What
ahead, bro.
he's saying about the planetary formation being an hypothesis is completely false. The scientists, they have observed planet formation and solar system formation at every stage throughout the universe. There are there.
Planetary
You can
formation,
look
you
at,
said?
yes, there are
No.
stars out there.
We have not observed planetary formation yet. There was one thing that came up in 2018, I believe, it was the Leica constellation, but where they found out it was something else. And people in
No.
groups showed me these links, and I found the updated paper that says no, this was a false conclusion. So we still haven't yet. And look, I'm not saying that the formation of planets had nothing to, that nebula had nothing to do with it. What I'm saying is that our planet itself, the Bible says that God had his hand in it. And when
No,
you see
bro.
out here, you
No,
don't see
no,
no
you're
other
putting out
planet.
misinformation.
Okay. So look, y'all see what's gonna happen, right? We gonna continue with this particular.
Yeah,
We need
I
to do a
get it,
part
but
two.
that's
We need to do a part
misinformation,
three
though.
on this. So
Hey,
let's
hey, Bianchi, we got to do a part 3 on this, bro.
yeah, we
That's
definitely
complete.
need
That
to
is
do a part three.
completely false. I'm gonna
All
show that
that
it's
he
false.
said is false.
We need to do a part 3. Let's let Thomas
Yeah,
get in. Go.
there's actual pictures of protoplanetary disks with stars, with planets going around them that is still in the gas and
Bring
stuff
them to
that
the
is
next
not completely
conversation.
formed.
Bring the evidence to
Oh,
the next conversation.
Yeah,
I will.
let's definitely get a part 3 on the books. Thomas, chime in, bro.
All right, so I was intrigued by the conversation that you guys were having on time. You know, it was definitely something that, you know, piqued my interest. Now I don't want to take you guys completely off subject and task, so I just want to know if it's cool that I sort of take us back there for a second.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Of course, go right ahead.
So basically, this is just in response to Sabio basically saying that in essence that time is dependent on the sun. So the first thing that I want to say is that time in itself is not dependent on the sun. The sun is used as a reference or measurement of time past. And so one thing that I do want to. What'd you say?
I said, what did I say? Time is you. The sun is used as a measurement of time. Without the sun, you cannot measure time.
No, that's not what you said.
Sabio, let him get it out, though, bro.
That's not what
Yes,
you said.
I did. Bro.
We can rewind it.
Let him get it out, bro. Sabio. Let him get it out.
We can rewind it if you want, but just to clear it up, you know, I'll just read this quick.
I've said it. This isn't the first time I've said it. I've said it numerous times to numerous people. So I know what I've said, bro.
All right.
Can he get out his statement real quick?
All right. So just in reference to time, like we have to understand what it is, right? And so I think that this simple definition, and this is from Wikipedia, you know, which is, you know, I think is a good explanation though, which simply says that time is the continued sequence of existence and events that occur in an apparently irreversible succession from the past through the present and into the future, right? And so we know that time is both relative, yet time is the same everywhere, right? So basically, time would be relative depending on someone's frame of reference. So for example, we have time zones that we can still refer back to what time it is in other places. So time is the same yet relative. And there's also time being relative in the sense that one, a moving clock, right, would be faster than a stationary clock or whatever, in reference to like time dilation, all those things. And there's also perceptions of times and things like that. And so, like I said, I just wanted to reference and say that when you're dealing with the sun, it's just a measurement, right? So time doesn't stop. Time doesn't stop when there is no sun. Again, if you know, if the sun went out today, and I gave the example, you know what I'm saying, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they take a group of people out, you know what I'm saying, out of this out from this planet to, you know, searching for another planet. Time would not cease to exist because there's no sun, because there would continue to be past, present, and the future, right? And so so I just wanted to make that point real quick, real succinct. So yeah, time is not dependent on the sun. We could just find a new way. We could find a new way to measure time, even making up one, if the sun went out.
Fabio, you want to respond?
Yes, I do. And we know that since time is measured by the sun, that there would be nothing in existence. So the thing they would have to do is make it to a galaxy where there is a sun to exist. So, because we know we need oxygen, and we know without the oxygen, we'll start breathing. So,
will we still have time though?
Hold on, let them get it out, T. Let them get it out.
Because would we still have time though?
Because there wouldn't be a thing to measure time by.
All right, and I just want to let you know,
the sun is gone, the moon is gone, the life-giving forces of the galaxy, of the solar system that we live in, is no longer here. So that means the existence of time that we are in will no longer be here.
So now, are you saying that time in its totality would no longer exist, or would we be able to find? Will we be able to find another way to measure time? That's my next question.
As we know it in this galaxy, time will cease to exist because life will cease to exist.
Now that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, because time cannot cease to exist just because people cease to exist. If planets continue to exist, for example, if the Earth.
So okay.
Hold on, y'all gotta hear each other. Let them finish.
Right. So you were done talking. So let me talk. So if the Earth was still here, yet uninhabitable, right? There would still be the passage. There would still be a past, a present, and a future going on, although no sun to measure that to measure time, and no people to measure time. You would still have time, because time is measured by the sun. Time is measured in hours, seconds, minutes, you know what I'm saying, years, days, all these things. These are just measurements, but it's not what the essence of time is.
Okay, so again, if you don't have a sun, how can you measure time? If you don't have people there to measure a day, how can you have time?
That's what I'm saying.
So stop. I let you finish.
Yeah, let them get it out, Tom.
Yeah, get it out.
If the people and in the galaxy where the sun, in this galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy that we live in, if this orb that we call the sun ceases to exist, time as we know it will cease to exist, because we will all cease to exist. Now, if some people happen to make it to another solar system where there's a habitable planet and there's a sun then time will continue to exist. That's a if.
So can I chime in right quick?
Please chime in.
So Savio, are you saying that time is contingent on life?
Who else uses time? Except for life, except for living organisms.
So because I just want to be clear. So if everybody on this planet cease to exist, time stops.
Who else uses time? What other organism uses time?
No. Why? Okay, so the sun is still here, but life on this planet ceases to exist. The sun's still out there burning bright.
So how is life going to still be here if I mean, I don't see.
Again, this is a hypothetical. This is a hypothetical question. There's a catastrophic event that causes all life on Earth to cease to exist. It's a husk, a lifeless husk, but the sun is still out there burning. Nothing else in the Milky Way has changed outside of Earth. It's just a lifeless husk. Does time stop?
No,
Is the
because
Earth,
the sun is still
is the
because
Earth
the Earth
still
is still rotating. The Earth got destroyed.
Is the Earth still rotating on its axis? That's the question.
That's what I'm saying. The Earth is still rotating on its axis. You see, that's what I'm saying.
Then time continues.
So
there's no force.
So time not contingent on life then?
No.
But it's contingent on the sun.
It's contingent on being calculated. Life, human life, well, not even human life, because a moth will cocoon, a bear will hibernate. So they know something about time as well. So time would continue as long as the Earth is spinning on its axis. And there's no force known to mankind that can stop it. Now, without the sun, let's say the Earth stops spinning on its axis. Then the Earth would crash into the sun in a straight line at about 30,000 miles per minute. It would hurl itself right into the sun.
Yes, it would.
But would there still be time?
No, because now the Earth is no longer spinning on its axis. It would be time, but it would be a distorted time because it would not be spinning this at the same rate as it is at this place today. Exactly. Yes.
Right. So let me get out this definition again.
Okay.
Time is the continued sequence of existence and events that occurs in an apparently irreversible succession from the past through the present into the future. Would there still be a past, present, and future?
Not as we know it. And
right.
Earth would be obliterated in a matter of hours.
Right. And so let's say that everything's obliterated except for the moon. Would the moon still have a past, present, and future?
No, because the moon would crash into. If this happened, if some type of phenomenon like this happened, all planets in our galaxy would stop rotating, and all of them in a straight line would crash right into the sun.
All right. So now would the universe still exist?
Yes.
Not out.
All right. Yes. So the universe would still exist.
Yes.
And there would still be a succession from the past through the present and into the future, correct?
From the planet well, what it depends on what planet you're talking about and the measurement of time on that particular planet. Time is measured by the rotation on its axis.
Right. So let's make it clear. Let's make it clear that you guys aren't talking about the essence of time. You guys are talking about the measurement of time.
Right. Time. Exactly. You're talking about the essence of time. We're talking about the measurements of time. Exactly. And one more point I want to make to you, brother, because you brought up a good point that made me think of this. How do we calculate the ages of other planets and the stars. We calculate that the ages of those particular things by the light that shines off of the planet from the sun, from the sun's in its orbit, right? So if I want to know how old Venus is, I can go look up the calculations from how long it took the light to get from Venus to Earth. Same thing with stars. So again, you basically are going back to sunlight when you're measuring time. That's my point.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that ultimately, if we're talking about measuring time, and we're talking about the essence of time, then I think we have to be careful with the language that we use ultimately and how we express how time is perceived overall, right? So if you're talking about the measurement of time, then we just have to make those things clear. And if we're talking about the essence of time stopping, which we know that the essence of time, it's not possible for the essence of time to stop because it's a constant.
I got you. I agree with you 100%. And you know what, bro? I want to build with you on this because I was just looking at the essence of time. I have it in my notes. So maybe we can do a build together here on Pianki's platform.
Yeah,
I want to touch on that and go in further on that.
Yeah, and I got one with Bianchi that I'm still working on because I've been at it. I've been trying to get at it with him, man. So I'm
man, I ain't gonna even lie, Thomas. I thought you were scared of me, man. I ain't gonna even front.
listen, bro. So I started working on my cars. You know what I'm saying? I had to do my whole suspension in my car. It took me way longer than I wanted to get it to get it done. You know what I'm saying? Been working on that. Then I started learning how to day trade. So basically I've been working around the clock.
Yeah, no, you notice I ain't even bothered you about it, man. Me and my wife, we already had like 4 LLCs. We done spun up 3 more, man. So I done got into this trucking dispatching, and it's a learning curve. So I've been a little busy myself.
Yeah, so, but I've been slowly adding to it. So I'm looking. Well, this next couple of weeks is trash, but maybe I could probably do it in a couple of weeks, probably on a weekday or something.
Okay, yeah,
I ain't dodging you. I ain't listen. You ain't seen me in the chat for nothing. I'm checking there to make sure I ain't been kicked out. That's all.
No. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Hey, matter of fact, Black Lion Supreme, I might have you moderate that. It's basically the premise is what does God's action or inaction determine? And we basically talking about, in a nutshell, if God intercedes, is he inhibiting free will? If he doesn't intercede, is he inhibiting his love? So we gonna get into some deep.
Yeah, I'm glad to do that. I'll gladly moderate that one.
So we'll I definitely keep you posted on once we get it on the book. So
brother, let's build on that, brother. I wanna talk to you about that. About time, the essence of time.
Yeah, we can definitely do that because that's, like I said, for me, like when that came up, I was like, oh man, that's a good topic right there. Yeah, let's work on that.
Yeah, I was just looking at some stuff about that, so I want to talk to you about it. Yeah, we're gonna
so basically, it sounds like my brother Sabio was correct. The wording may have gotten a bit convoluted, but what he's saying is correct with regards to our existence, particularly in the Milky Way solar system or the Milky Way galaxy.
Thomas is correct too.
I was just about to say, but my brother Thomas is also correct. So it was just the wording that kind of got convoluted and led to the confusion.
That happens a lot, man.
But see, that's hold on, Pianki. That's the thing. A lot of times people don't think I understand the other angle, and I do. I don't be looking at it when I be bringing my point forward. You understand? I have already looked at that. Trust me. Before I bring a lot of the things that I talk about, I talk about them with other people. So I can get
Samuel, tell the truth. You was waiting for an opportunity to go off on cue. That's what it was. Like just be honest, man. Nah, but look, man. I want to thank Google Scholar and Richard Garfield for coming on and having a powerful dialogue. You see, I didn't even have to moderate. Them brothers just built for an hour and a half, unimpeded. I ain't have to say nothing. So I want to thank y'all for having a good build, back and forth, no personal jabs, no disrespect. I definitely appreciate that. I want to say thank you for the brothers that came on and asked the questions. Everybody can close out. I'm gonna start with the two brothers that came on. I'm gonna start with you, Google Scholar. If you got any word or anything that you're doing on social media where you want people to follow you, let them know.
No, I don't have a social media platform other than on Facebook. I stay on YouTube mostly. I follow a few channels on here. Most of the time I'm on Savior's channel on the Scripture Rippers. I'm also in that back chat. But other than that, I bounce around from a few channels here on YouTube. In terms of the dialogue that I was having with the brother, I want to say it was a good dialogue. I enjoyed it. I think the brother is a very intelligent brother. He understands a lot of the science, but what I see in him is basically he's at a point where I was at one point where I saw the science and I saw the Bible and I was looking for a way to make both compatible. But in my opinion, if you take the science for what it is and if you take the book for what it is, it's not going to be compatible. Sure, you can harmonize some parts of it, but when there's some parts of it that you just have to outright deny the science in order to accept it. So in terms of the dialogue, though, I would say it was a good dialogue. The brother is very respectful. I didn't at any time feel like he was, trying to project that he's smarter than me, even though he probably is. And I just enjoyed it, and I look forward if there's another time that we can go in, because there's a lot of other stuff on this topic that I didn't get to. But whenever the chance arises again, I would definitely go in some more in terms of other stuff in the Bible that I see is not according to science. But it was a good dialogue. I also want to say, at some point, I want to get at also the brother Nobody, in terms of he has a stance in terms of the African origins of the Bible or the early Christians. But that's another topic for another day. But for right now, it was good dialogue, and thank you for having me on. Thank the brother for coming through and for having a respectful dialogue.
No doubt, brother. It was an honor. You've been supporting the channel for a while. I always see you in the chat, so I definitely appreciate you coming on. Nobody. He just called you out, bro. So we got to get that on the books. All right, my brother Richard Garfield, unmute yourself, man, and let the people know what you got going on, particularly with the film.
Yeah, mutual respect to the Google Scholar. We definitely enjoyed the conversation. I love challenging topics. I love to be challenged because it pushes, to anybody, it pushes us to our limits. It pushes us to our borders. And, when it comes to, our faith, you said, you was at a point where I was at. But I think the only difference between me and you is that I didn't allow scientific theories to scare me away from the Bible, or to sway me away from the Bible. What I've found and what I've seen is that there's no observation. When I say observation, things that we can both agree on, that we both saw at the same time. You know, not just about interpretations of past events. It's the observation of a mechanism to show the event. And to the Christian, you know, this is more for the Christian, that like you don't have to be shaken in your faith by science. Science go hand in hand with your faith. You know, if you look at all the scientific advances in the past, people believed in God, and then it prevented them from finding out, you know, to be smart, to study things and to see things logically. You know, to the atheist, nothing I say is going to convince you. It's not supposed to convince you. If you came to God from, you know, because somebody, you know, harmonized science in the Bible, your faith isn't going to be in the wrong thing. So my whole purpose for this conversation is to make you agnostic, and that's all. And you know, in regards to where you want to catch me, you know, Yeshua the movement, me and my brother Frank Sanderson, we out to create the best Jesus movie out here that anybody has ever seen.
All right, and I got to get y'all back on the channel again for another interview, the two of y'all too. So we definitely got to get that on the books. Scripture Ripper, unmute yourself.
Yo, what up? What up? I'm gonna be real brief. I'm gonna say this real quick. We know that there is no science in the Bible, as there is no history in the Bible. There are anti-science and anti-history books. We know that the Bible is nothing but a cultural story written for a group of people, and that is what I'm going to continue to teach. You can find me over on Scripture Rippers. We are for academic integrity, where we want our ancestors, our people, to know the truth of what happened to them and how we got here. And like I would say, you can find me over on Scripture Rippers and Dagger Squad, and you can catch me on Paradigm Shift. I am also known as the Nemesis and Mr. Don't Play, because I don't play.
Hey, that's my hitter, savior. When I need a body to get caught, that's who I call. But it end up being 5 bodies that I didn't intend to get hit. So, you know, I got to be careful. Black Lion Supreme, my man, it's on you.
Thanks again, family, for having me. I appreciate y'all. It was a great build once again. Both of these gentlemen did a fantastic job. And I love this dialogue. And I love the spirit of the dialogue more than anything. I'm just going to be brief and say this. The oldest forms of life on this planet is microorganisms, not plants, not animals. There's something called the prebiotic state. That's the state this planet was in before a plant, before an animal ever dwelled upon the surface of this planet. So they have samples of bacteria that's billions of years old. So we got that established. Next is the question about the flood. When it comes to the flood, I'll just go here. I can say a lot of things about the flood, but I'll just go here. If anyone's ever been in a body of water and you've been about 30 feet deep in that water, you know that you feel pressure. You feel pressure all around your body because you're 30 feet deep underwater. Now I want you to imagine how much pressure it would be on the surface of this planet if 4 times the water on this planet was to flood the earth, because that's how much water it would take. About 4 times the water we have on the planet today. Imagine, and I'm sure you've seen submarines go deep into our natural oceans right now. And you've seen if they go too deep, they will implode. Now I want you to, and that's just here natural. Now imagine a supernatural phenomenon where all this water is coming in, what would happen to the surface of the planet, let alone the structure, like the pyramids or the tepi, like my brother scholar mentioned, or the ziggurat in in the Middle East that's made out of mud bricks that's still standing to this day. I want you to imagine that pressure and what would happen to the surface of this planet. I believe it was probably cracked from the tremendous pressure of that much water. So, family, I just want us to be critical thinkers and come up with these topics and do proper research and let the evidence speak for itself. And that's all I want to say. And thank you again. Very good show. I appreciate y'all. And I hope to see you soon next time.
Yo, Bianchi.
All right. What's up, Xavier?
Yo, we're gonna have that conversation about that conversation me, you, and Black Line Supreme and Jacob is supposed to be having. Is that still on or what?
Which one? Oh. Yeah. It's still on. It's still on for sure.
Set some parameters and some and what we're gonna be actually going over and stuff, you know.
Yeah, we just gotta so basically we just gotta get a lockdown today. I think I said December 18th. We just gotta make sure
we gotta get the promotion going on that.
Yeah, we just gotta make sure we're on point and on agreement with everything, and then I'm gonna get the flyer and
as soon as you get the flyers, I'll start pushing it.
Okay.
You know it's gonna be ugly.
Yeah, let's jump in the back chat and make sure we all in agreement on the date and everything.
You already know we're gonna have a pre-debate, so
right, no doubt. And then we gotta find a moderator too.
Oh
no, we said we had Rocky.
Rocky was gonna do it.
We got Rocky. Okay, yeah, we good then. We good. So yeah, we'll get that rolling. So that's it, family. We got some things in the oven for y'all, family, that we trying to bring some content to the table, but not just content to entertain, but more so to edutain. We want y'all to come away with some useful information that you can disseminate the real from the fake, the truth from the lies, the falsehoods from the realities, and we want to do it in a way that's respectful to the individuals involved, as well as each and every one of you, and the perspective that y'all coming from. So that's what I'm gonna continue to push. Again, we can have unity without uniformity, and we can we can disagree without being disrespectfully disagreeable. At the end of the day, we Black people talking to each other about Black issues. So there's no reason for us to get indignant with each other when at the end of the day, the same police that's aiming his gun at me is gonna be aiming his gun at all of these brothers. The same racists that want to kidnap my daughters want to kidnap their daughters. So we got the same issues. So all that negativity that we sometimes bring to the table need to get pushed aside, and we push the information. So y'all know my mantra. Y'all know what it is. This Paradigm Shift TV 314. We're gonna be black at you again. I got the brother Dustin Larkins tomorrow, Christian apologist. You want to come on talk about religion? We're gonna get to it. So I interview him. He happens to be a man of European descent.
Oh boy!
I want everybody in the chat to be ready to come on and ask the brother some questions, what his intention is, etc. So he reached out to me. We're gonna get to it. So
I can't wait.
You know.
What time tomorrow?
It'll be, I believe we said 8 p.m. I dropped the video, the little promo video in the chat just to be sure. But yeah, so we're gonna get to it, and we also have a debate with the Lions. No, I almost said the Lions game. The Torah Knights and Fobi coming up. We ain't got everything hammered down, but I'm looking at getting the sister Natalia on as well. I didn't realize the Queen was from St. Louis, so I should have been reached out to her. So
know about them. I've seen them before. Okay.
Yeah. You know Queen Neptali, she be on the Dagger Squad all the time. Y'all done dealt with her a few times.
Yeah, I've seen Phoebe before too.
Okay. So yeah, we definitely trying to bring y'all some information and some content. Like I said,
I think we need to go in over there on pseudo killers because they're over there trying to put Africans back in slavery.
I heard they still on that, man.
I'm not trying to argue with them dudes, man.
Yeah, man.
I got time.
I might have to address that with you, Xavier. We'll talk about it. But yeah, all right, family, we're gonna get out of here, man. That's peace.
All right, fam.
Paradigm Shift
Peace.
TV 314.
Hotel.
We out of here. I appreciate y'all, brothers.
Thank you. Thanks again, fam. Appreciate you.
Peace.